Happy Saturday. Thank you for tuning into episode of S&V 500, episode 1, sponsored by the Next Gen USA. I'm Rory Sauter from the Rory Sauter Show. Joining me is my co-host, Michael Vass. Michael, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I love fighting the internet overlords as they try and stop the East Coast and West Coast from having a conversation about our nation. So this is something we're going to get. We're going to get it right. We're going to get it going.
We are. And we look forward to bringing people, this program every Saturday, with tons of great topics, headlines, addressing the things that matter, stories that, we need to really keep our eyes on and, things that we need to do to fix our country. And there's so much work to do. There really is.
Yeah, it's kind of like people can think of it like the top S&P 500, the top 500 issues that may be happening that you may not know about, but we're going to try and cover a bunch of them for you.
And, as people know, I do my 7-hour show every Thursday, and a lot of times I can't, get every topic in, that I want to. So, this is a perfect show to get off my chest, and basically discuss things that we didn't get to on the previous on my previous episode, which is such a breath of fresh air, because it always bothers me when I end an episode and there's things that I left out or things that were pivotal, and having that run out of time sort of thing pop in front of you, it really sucks.
Well, it's always difficult. I know I do 3 or 4 videos myself every week, plus a live stream for 3-4 hours every Sunday, plus 2 or 3 other group chats, roundtables.
Yeah.
And with all of that, we're talking about 7 shows a week, 3 or 4 of them being live. And even then, there's always more to talk about. There's always more that's affecting us every time.
And Michael, since I ended my episode on Thursday, we were on the air for 8 hours. Mm-hmm. And in the last 48 hours, since the show ended on Thursday, I can't even count how many headlines. I mean, I could do a whole 8-hour show just on what's happened in the last 48 hours.
Well, it's always amazing because the weekends, there's so much that happens where we get to see the recap of what we've seen throughout the week, and we get to get prepared for what's coming up next week. And,
right.
And the funny thing is, a lot of people, well, you're out going to the movies, you're going on dates, you're going to have dinner. A lot of people don't get to see all of this, but yet they feel the impact on Monday when they get back to work. So this may help people understand a little bit more of what's happening when the downtime is there.
And the way we resonate, the way we connect, the way we, see eye to eye on so many issues and so many policies. I mean, this is perfect for us to do the show together. I mean, it's the match made in heaven. I mean, it's the dynamic duo, that everybody can dream of.
Okay, then I'm Batman.
Okay, I'll be the Robin. I mean, you are older. That is fair. That is fair. But no, this is going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be quite the journey. We plan to make this into a huge brand. We're going to be bringing on lots of great guests. And as everybody knows, this new network is going to be giant. We're going to be having a lot of notable names doing their own shows, 24-hour, breaking coverage, news columns, everything you can imagine in a network. You're going to think you're watching, Fox News or CNN. It's eventually going to get to that point.
I mean, we are, no. We're better than CNN.
We are. But I mean, the platform I have right now, it's built, it's ready to go, but we are doing so much more in terms of features and advancing it to the next level. I mean, I have so many plans of evolving it, and really, independent media at this point is the time to capitalize. I mean, now more than ever. I mean, with all the credibility that these mainstream channels have lost, and how everybody's turning to different podcasting hosts with no agenda and aren't compromised and can hear real conversations that are authentic and personable. This is what the people want.
Well, I think it's important. I mean, we've seen, what is it, NBC 11 different articles that have been completely plagiarized. We saw USA Today, dozens of articles just completely fabricated. We've seen with the New York Times, there's a reason why the public doesn't trust the major news media, the mainstream media. And one of the other big things is shows like ours, individually and together, and people can say, well, there's other people that they know as well. It's because you can pick the stories, the issues, and get into details and find out how it's affecting you locally, something that the major news media will never do and don't care about.
Right.
We just want to get that headline out. They don't actually want to talk about the substance. And hopefully we'll be able to do more of that. And I look forward to hearing all of the comments from everybody that agree with us, disagree with us, to hear all of their views on the things that we're talking about.
And you and me have talked about on several occasions. Actually, you know what? Before we get into this, I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're doing a 2-hour show tonight, and we're not going to have as many guests as we usually have on the 8-hour show. So, I do have people in the green room that we will bring on, like 3 or 4 people. But this is a blast. And we are back. The S&V 500, episode 1. I am Rory Sauter from the Rory Sauter Show. Joining me is Michael Vass, my co-host from No Soundbites Allowed. You can find him all over the internet. He has been doing commentary for longer than I've been alive. Michael, what is your record again? How many people have you interviewed? And tell us.
Not quite that old, but it's about 15 years talking to candidates and elected officials since 2008. I think we've had over 200, somewhere in that range, about 200 different politicians, candidates, and events that we've covered over that time frame. It's a lot. It's tiring, but I enjoy it. And I enjoy also talking about the issues that are going on out there. I mean, hopefully tonight, I think some of the things we're going to talk about, probably what's going to be the impact of seeing now that former Japanese Prime Minister Abe he's passed away. He died because of an assassination. That's going to be major news on Monday, and the repercussions of that circling the internet right now. Twitter is losing its mind because Abe was a good friend of President Trump. And President Trump today is talking about that and a few other things over in in Alaska. And one of the things he's talking about in Alaska is the fact that there's been a new development in Wisconsin that just came out. And that's going to be big news on Monday as well. So I'm looking forward to talking about a few of those things. What are some things you're thinking about?
Well, yeah, I mean, let's talk about the assassination in Japan. I mean, what does that do to the world? I mean, what does that do in terms of destabilization purposes? Does that hurt what's going on over there? I mean, was this a setup? Was this an inside job? I mean, how odd? I mean, Japan is like the hardest place to get a gun. Obviously, this guy built it. I understand that. But you would think with all the security around you, there are so many unanswered questions here. And he would, let's face it, he was very pro-Trump. He was very, pro his country. He had some issues with China. He had some issues with some other countries over there. There were a lot of people, I'm not talking about in his country, but surrounding his country that weren't fan of his. I mean, what do you think of this? Is it? It's with everything going on, it's odd timing.
Well,
and an election. Let's not forget, he was campaigning for an election that was right around the corner in a few days. So it's just weird. Go ahead.
The big thing is the timing is odd. I mean, Boris Johnson has just resigned. We have the ineffective leadership out of Joe Biden, and we're seeing that Abe, who was known as a nationalist, he was a unifier in Japan, although some of the left-leaning media in the United States are attacking him. He, in fact, in Japan was very well received and very popular. He wasn't popular with China. He wasn't popular with North Korea. And that's a good thing in my book. But I see that and he's a very conservative leader. He believed in a pro-Japan point of view. And that's great. If you're Japanese and you're part of the Japanese government, you should be pro-Japan. In America, we should be pro-America. Seems that Joe Biden isn't for some reason, but he should be. But I think it shows look at what we're seeing in the Southeast Asia region right now. China has been making moves against Taiwan. North Korea has fired off 15 hypersonic missiles towards Japan and over at our ally, South Korea. We have a very unstable region right now because we don't have leadership in the United States under Joe Biden. And when you look at that combination and then you take away one of the key linchpins of stability.
We're back. I had the TV came off of pause at the Trump rally. I was paying attention, but no, keep going. Sorry.
No worries. It's the first show. There's always things happen in the first show.
Yeah, it was on pause, and then it can only be on pause for an hour, and then it just kind of came back on.
So, but I'm saying when you take away the linchpin, like Abe, and you see that, and we got to remember, he was attacked because he was a conservative, because he was unifying to the nation of Japan, because he was opposed to the Chinese Communist Party, because he was opposed to the dictatorship of North Korea, also a socialist nation. That's why, one of the reasons why he was attacked. And he was attacked. The reason why, a lot of people say, well, how could that have happened? Because Japan, unlike the United States, doesn't have a Second Amendment. No country does. And Japan hates guns. It's not even part of their culture. This kid made a firearm, which you can't stop. I don't care how many laws you have. Criminals can't be stopped from doing that. It's basic chemistry, basic physics. And because they weren't prepared for someone being that radicalized, that's why they were able to get so close and to kill Abe. I think this is going to have a major impact on Southeast Asia relations, and the United States has to correct what we've done. Biden didn't even respond immediately. World leaders did. Trump did. Abe, we didn't see a word from Biden or the Biden-Harris team for hours. We need to get someone over there right now, and we have to reconfirm that we support Japan in this difficult time and that we are not going to let anyone mess with Japan while they are going through this transition period and trying to stabilize their nation. That's what I think.
And do you think security got too comfortable, knowing the situation of how strict Japan's gun laws are? Because that would have never happened in today's society with the president of the United States or some of these other countries that have way more stricter, on top of things, people watching over them. I mean, don't you think this was reckless behavior on the security's behalf?
No. And by the way, I see in the audience, George Colella. Sorry if I got your name wrong, George. Glad to see you here with us. Please do look forward to your comments. Anyone, and people who think I'm wrong, I'd love to hear this. But I don't think it was because of any kind of ignorance on their part or that they were too lackadaisical, considering we have a very different culture when we see Japan, and we can't look at it from the eyes we can't look at any nation from the eyes of the United States.
And now I'm looking at a report. So apparently, this is from Breitbart, and I want everybody to hear this real quick. And I was reading this earlier, and this was fascinating. Sure. His main target wasn't even Shinzo. He wanted to kill the religious leader, but Japan's ex-prime minister Shinzo is an easier target, so that's who he ended up getting.
I don't trust anything I hear about.
I mean, Breitbart is pretty much as honest as it gets for our realm of news. I mean, they're pretty on top of things.
I don't dispute Breitbart's reporting. I don't trust a demonic mass shooter, a criminal, someone who would shoot someone in their back. I don't trust that person. So
you basically don't trust the just the alibi they give. You think they're full of shit a lot of times.
I don't know. I think these are demonic, crazed people. They're deranged. Any mass shooter, anyone who would do something so cowardly, so sickening, I don't trust them. So they can say a whole bunch of things. I don't even know if he knows what his name is every day of the week. So I don't trust him. And my concern, actually, I don't care why the shooter decided to go after Abe. I don't care. because he's not important. The shooter is not important. The consequences of their actions, that's important. He didn't do this because this isn't a coup attempt. This isn't someone who is hated in his country. This isn't someone who is a weak leader. It's exactly the opposite in almost every one of those cases. So we have to look at, well, what are the consequences now? Screw the shooter. He needs to go to the death penalty as soon as possible and be done with him, because we have, and I know he's alleged, he's got to go through the trial. We have him on video. We have his own admission. So that shouldn't take too long. He should get the death penalty. Now, so throw him out the window. I don't care about him. What about Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, Southeast Asia, Taiwan? What's going to be happening? Malaysia? What's going to be happening to everyone else? Because this now inserts an opportunity for China to exert its power. And God help us if North Korea decides that they want to shoot off a couple of hypersonic missiles. I mean, they've already shot off 15. They've been coming within 300 miles of Japan. Imagine what they might do this next time. Even if they screw up and just the missile goes off on its own, what happens then? I know Rory's here with us.
So, no, I'm right back. There are some technical issues with my camera. I'm right here. But absolutely. And you know what? Here's what's very interesting. Joe Biden was pushing the gun control narrative right after this incident occurred, which is extremely disturbing. I mean, he tried to say, "Oh, Japan," you know. I mean, come on, dude. You can't even mourn the guy. You immediately have to run into politics with this. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Which is why we have such bad relations with Japan and North Korea and Southeast Asia at the moment. And God forbid they decide to send over Kamala Harris again, because the last time she was in Southeast Asia, she embarrassed the United States and made our relations worse, not better. But that's the problem. It's short-sighted thinking, and Joe Biden is thinking about the 2022 midterm elections. He's thinking about trying to win for Democrats. Japan isn't concerned about gun control in the way they already have gun control, both culturally as well as legally. So it's not their big deal. So that's to say that is tone deaf. It is ignorant of their culture. It's ignorant of their laws and not dealing with the important issue of showing America's sympathy and strength and willingness to help our ally. That's the thing we need to focus on. So I don't care about the shooter, and I don't care that Joe Biden wants to win an election in 2022 when we're trying to save Southeast Asia. I mean, does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And, you know, did you see Trump's heartfelt message? I mean, he's probably even going to attend the funeral. I mean, you can really tell in his voice that this really got to him. I mean, they had a really close bond. And just, you know, their friendship was just so authentic. And I'll tell you something, Trump made a good point right after this whole incident. You know, he made a speech the other day. He said drug dealers should get the death penalty. I agree. Some of these hardcore drug dealers that are selling, you know, narcotics that are killing people left and right. Yes. I mean, you know, I'm surprised we don't already have that. A lot of countries have that. And the reduction in crime from drug dealing, I mean, there's like basically no drug dealers in a lot of these countries that, you know, sentence people to death for something like that. Your thoughts?
Well, to finish the thought on Japan, you can see that the left has no clue what they're talking about. People are circulating a picture that shows Abe and President Trump with their arms crossed, facing off against Angela Merkel, who used to be the Prime Minister, the Chancellor for Germany. And it was I believe, a G20 summit where they were on opposite sides of issues. And they're upset because they bought into this idea that President Trump was disliked around the world. Not true, not real. That isn't the fact. And they think that, well, Joe Biden's loved because he's weak. No, that's not true. So that's one aspect of it. Now, we have to look at when he's talking about what to do with drug dealers. This was in response to a comment from the Chinese government. And in the 1920s, China had about 80% of its population addicted to opium. If I remember the numbers correctly at this time, it was roughly about 80%. And when the communists came in, they made a decision. How do we deal with all these people hooked on opium? Their answer was they killed everyone. They killed the drug dealers. They killed the drug addicts. They pulled them all into town squares and killed them all. It was on national TV, national radio. You could not turn it off. And they made it, every time they did it, they made the message, if we catch you on drugs, you will die. Period. That was if you got caught, you were dead.
Yeah.
So now what happened after that? Drugs and drug use, major drug use, became almost non-existent in China. They were effective. Now, you may say, Mike, that's just horrendous. That's barbaric. It was effective. When you had 80% of your population, China was dying as a nation. It saved their country. It was harsh. Now, looking at America, are we at the same levels? No. Is it still appropriate? I think so. And when we're talking about people who are selling fentanyl, which is responsible, one of the drugs responsible for record all-time high overdoses in America right now.
Did you just see the record amount of meth that was found at the California border? It was all over my website. I posted a big article about it today. It was the record the largest amount they've ever seen.
Okay. Well, see, that's the thing. We're having, it's record levels of meth, record levels of crack and cocaine and
everything. It doesn't end. And we all know, you know what the frustrating part about this is, Michael? The hardest part for me to really accept is that a lot of the government high-end officials are behind this. They make money on the back end. They made movies and documentaries about, look at the Bill Clinton days. Look at how he was involved with making a lot of money on the back end of these drug smugglers, a lot of these cocaine deals that are going on, whether they were coming from Colombia or wherever. They made, you know what I'm talking about. This has been going on for decades.
Yes, there has been a big problem with drugs in America since basically the Vietnam War, during the flower power of the 1960s, where we saw a drug culture come into America, imported by many of the progressives and the socialists, meant to help to weaken America's infrastructure. And it has succeeded. But how do we change that? Now, I think that if you are, and I know George is making some comments there, and I do agree with George, we do need Japan's Navy. And he says that China is sending fentanyl to America through the cartels to kill America. I think he's right. At the moment, we need to have a harsh and realistic point of view about drugs. They kill people. Yeah. I understand people want to say, well, it's not that bad. No, they kill people.
Imagine if these feminists and these liberals put all the effort of the fake hysteria that they give on these shootings into this drug epidemic, because these drugs are killing 1 million times more people than these shootings are, than these shootings ever will.
Well, they don't want to focus on that because they are in favor of the drugs.
Same with the media.
So they don't want to talk about it. Yeah. And that's why I think we need to actually stand up and say, and let's have this as a national referendum. Let's have a vote on this. Let's have votes on this by state and by the nation. If you are convicted, because fentanyl kills, opioids kill, at the very least, let's start there. We can have a conversation about all the different drug types. Fentanyl and opioids kill. And let's have that referendum, put it in front of the people and say, these guys are selling this to our children. They are selling it to teenagers. They are selling it to our young adults, 20, 21, 22. How about we say that if you are caught selling this to children, which is killing them, either outright killing them through overdoses or destroying their lives going forward, that is murder. And whether it's a delayed murder or an immediate murder, it is murder. And therefore, they get the same penalty. And I believe that penalty should be the death sentence. Period. That's it. If we catch you, we convict you. It is proven that you are selling these drugs to children, people under 18, then guess what? You get the death penalty. That's it. and the death penalty means you're going to get the chair. Done. I think that makes a big difference. You want to tell me that marijuana is different? Okay, we can have that conversation, but let's start there with fentanyl and opioids. And I would like to hear the argument where it says, no, Mike, that's okay. Please tell me why.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, I mean, look, and you know, Tucker Carlson did a excellent, segment the other night on his show, talking about SSRIs. I know these are different types of drugs, and this kind of is shifting topics a little bit. But we really need to hold big pharma accountable, because a lot of these street drugs are no different than how big pharma is killing people. They're, in my opinion, they're the most evil entity to ever live. And the fact that Tucker had the balls and the courage to call out, that sort of stance, especially on a huge network like Fox News, I mean, that takes big kahunas. Not nobody would touch a segment like that except Tucker Carlson, and I praise him for it, because there is a connection with a lot of these, mass shootings, a lot of these crimes, a lot of these suicides that are involving doctors prescribing these dangerous medications. Your thoughts, though, because I know you've done a lot of study on this.
Yeah, I think that, and I'm sorry, my dog's going crazy in the background.
No, you're
trying to
fine.
figure out why he is. Sorry, my dog completely threw me off.
Talking about the Tucker Carlson thing.
Yeah, Tucker's been doing a great job of bringing things forward, but I think these are national conversations that we should be having.
Right.
If news media,
because when we talk about the drug epidemic, that includes big pharma, that includes illegal drugs coming across the border, that includes it all.
Well, let's think about this. Is big pharma the same thing as a drug cartel? No, because big pharma is also.
But have they killed just as many people, though?
Maybe not. That's hard to say. I don't have the same opinion of Pfizer as I do of whatever drug cartel from South America or anywhere else. Because think about all the drugs that they have put out for MS, for cancer, for just various diseases that people are living with, their work with diabetes. There's a lot of good things pharmacies do. Now, the fact isn't the problem. The problem, I don't think, is that pharmaceutical companies exist or that drugs are expensive. I think that there's corruption in the system that allows them to take advantage of that corruption, and that they are using that to their advantage, where they're able to sell a untested pandemic medication, and they're able to use that and sell it at an exorbitant profit without ever being tested. That's not the fault of the pharmaceutical companies. That's the fault of the politics that pushed this forward and said, we have to do this tomorrow. We don't have time to test this. Well, guess what? You do have time, because the world didn't end. And it wasn't because of masks. It wasn't because of the pandemic medication. It's because human beings are resilient. And this wasn't something that we needed to panic and shut the world down over. But they took advantage of that opportunity. I don't blame companies for taking advantage of bad politics and the attempt by politicians to gain votes off of fear. It's not the same thing. I don't think so. I mean, that's not to say that pharmaceutical companies are great, but they're not the evil demons that they're being made out to be.
But I want to address the matter of, these vaccines that were, obviously rolled out. I mean, don't look at that part of how evil they've become. I mean, in that regard, I mean, they didn't do any.
Not them. But see, I don't think that's them, because again, that's coming from the Democratic Party. That's coming from mainstream media. That's coming from Dr. Fauci. They're the ones pushing this. The pharmaceutical company said, well, yeah, I've got something. They said, give it to us today. Give it to us now. Give us as much as you possibly can. Well, I'm going to charge you more for it. Okay, it doesn't matter. Charge us whatever you want to charge us. Give it all to us and keep it coming. Okay.
Now, I'm really getting deep into thought on this now. How would you be for putting some of these pharmaceutical owners on death row? for all the lives that they've been responsible for, and how they're exempt from criticism, and how they basically get away with millions of murders. I mean, don't you think it's disgusting? And they should. I mean, come on. I mean, it's out of control.
Well, I don't see them doing the same thing that we're talking about. They're not doing they're not a fentanyl deal. Now, let's look at the opioids, because when people want to talk about that, they're usually talking about opioids and the push of opioids. Okay. Was that coming from the pharmaceutical companies, or was that coming from middle salesmen and doctors?
Good point.
Who's responsible? Is it the doctor who is pushing the prescription onto an individual who shouldn't have had it? Who do we hold responsible? Now, I think it's more the doctor's fault, because the doctor decided to disavow the Hippocratic Oath and did harm. Rather than trying to find the appropriate treatment for an individual, they said, here's a pill. Take the pill because I'm getting paid for it. Take the pill because this is going to be able to make me rich. Yeah, it helps you, but it may not be the best thing for you. And I'm not even thinking about the fact that you might become addicted to it. No. The doctor pushed it and then kept pushing it. Yes, the pharmaceutical company said, here it is. And they said, here, we'll give you money to do this. The doctor could have said no. The HMOs could have said no. They didn't. They said, okay, yes, we'll take the money. And they pushed it hard. I blame the doctors. I blame the HMOs. They knew better.
Yeah.
Just because it's available doesn't mean that I have to take it. Just because there's a $500 pair of jeans or a $500 pair of sneakers out there doesn't mean that I got to go out and get a pair of Air Jordans. No, I don't even wear sneakers because it's not needed for my life. Just because they have it doesn't mean that I have to partake. But if I decide to do that and I decide to sell it to someone else for $1,000, knowing that I'm taking advantage of them, now that becomes my fault, not the guy who supplied it, because that's the same argument they put on guns. Oh, they manufactured the guns. Well, that didn't make someone go out and do a mass shooting or mug somebody. I can't blame the manufacturer. It's not them. I'm blaming the people who actually caused the harm. And in this case, the person causing the harm is the HMO and the doctor, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And I want to ask your thoughts on this. You know, we saw this, in recent weeks. Pfizer, a lot of these companies have had to release the full details, and there was more proof and there was more evidence of natural immunity doing better things to help people, prevent getting COVID, rather than and more people were getting it that had the vaccine. I mean, what are your thoughts? And a lot of it was considered a placebo. I mean, there were trials where they tested various people, and it's crazy. It's crazy how big pharma can get this stuff approved, and then it's considered legitimate, and then in reality, it's a farce when after the real facts come out.
But notice again, it's not them, because again, it comes down to the FDA. There's a set of rules. The process to get a drug approved on a fast track is 7 years.
Yeah,
fast tracking AIDS drugs took 7 years.
Yes.
The regular drug takes 10 to 12 years to get through and to be approved to actually be used by human beings. The human race at this moment across the globe are a bunch of guinea pigs. We're a bunch of lab rats. And this is the biggest experiment of a medication ever done in the history of mankind, because they've had 3 months before they started injecting this into human beings. We have no idea what this is going to do to anyone ever. And I'm not telling people to take the medication or not to take the medication. I'm not a doctor, but this is factual scientific fact that we normally go through, and this is procedures of the government. We go and I'm saying that because I know there are censors out there that are going, oh my God, look what you. This isn't medical advice. This is fact. The process is 7 years fast track. We did 3 months. And to tell me that there are potentially some kind of side effects or unknown results of this, I'm not surprised. And I can't blame the drug company. They didn't have time to do the test. It's not like they falsified the information. They didn't have any information. My problem is, again, where's the FDA saying, well, I know you think it's really important, but we can't do this sooner. Where's the politicians? Everyone's out there saying, no, we have to slow this process down. We have to test this. We have to be sure. Where are those safeguards that were put in place to make sure that we wouldn't have this resulting problem? Again, the problem isn't big pharma. They're just an easy target. They're the low-hanging fruit. They're the obvious bad guys that everyone can beat up on because it's easy to raise money and to get votes by saying, that big evil corporation, how dare they? And it completely obscures the fact that the problem isn't them. The problem is the politicians and the policy they put forth that is absolutely not in the advantage of the public, because it's an untested experiment, and we've turned the public, the population of the world, into lab rats. That's the way I see that. And people can disagree with me on that, but I think it's very clear when you think about it.
And Michael, you know what I think is really dangerous is how compromised the FDA is, and how there's not enough thorough process with I'm talking about everything in general. I mean, there's a lot of big companies that can pay off the FDA to, speed up, getting their stuff approved, among many other variables that factor into it. But that's scary that we can't have an honest health system in that regard.
Yeah, and I'm totally against that. I mean, when there is corruption, when there are problems, when there's what is it? I forget the name of the woman who is the daughter of one of the United States senators. She was in charge of the EpiPen, and she's charging 17 times what it needs to cost.
Wasn't that Joe Manchin's daughter? Wasn't that?
Right. Yes, it was Joe Manchin's daughter. I forgot her name.
And then Joe Manchin got a bunch of shit for that because he was kind of backing her on that and kind of, he's a politician. They get all them perks.
Well, he's a dad. He's a dad. He's protecting his daughter. I get that.
Yeah.
But 17 times on something that is a life-saving drug, there is no replacement for it. It's like EpiPen or die. Okay. That's something that I can say, yeah, that seems abusive. I don't mind a company making a profit, but 17 times, and for a fact that they already had a built-in profit. I think it was 300%. And then she came in and increased the profit to 17 times. That's abusive. They had a profit built in. They had a locked-in market, and they took advantage of the lackadaisical process in the FDA, and they abuse the bureaucrats who don't know what's going on. They just rubber stamp paperwork back and forth. See, that I would say, yeah, that's an abusive policy, and I want to punish that. But it's different. That's a very different kind of thing, I think. And we need to make sure we understand that difference and then punish it when we see it.
And what should we anticipate, and kind of expect for these lockdowns coming up? What should we... Biden already said they need more money. Many of his staff have said there's new variants. Be ready for the fall. This is election season. We got to really be cautious of the tricks they play.
I hope, Rory, I hope there are not going to be another series of lockdowns. We knew immediately that the worst thing you could possibly do is lock down anywhere in the world.
But think about it. Their whole agenda is destroy, destruct, completely erase American values and everything we stand for. They want to sell us out.
Well, it's great if you want to do a big reset, but
that's what they want. I think of the they keep talking about the Great Reset.
Well, this is the way to do it, because you're going to destroy every economy in the world. We're talking about a deep, deep depression if they do a lockdown, as we are entering into stagflation that is being amplified by a food shortage and energy price shortages. You can't put that combination together and say, oh, well, I'm just going to lock down the entire world at the same time. I'm sorry, you can't do that. Right. That will put people into a massive depression financially as well as emotionally, and destroy economies around the world. It will destroy nations. We have people right now, not just in Sri Lanka, but in Africa. I believe East Africa is going through this as well at this moment. There are massive food shortages that people are going out and they are rioting. The government of Sri Lanka is now changing because people are saying we need food. And this is at the beginning of the food shortage.
And we've never witnessed this in our history. People fighting over food to this level, to this extreme. I mean, this is a real situation and emergency here. I mean, and we all saw this whole Sri Lanka thing happening long before it did. I mean, this was inevitable. I mean, they were printing endless amounts of money. They were in so much debt. They were bankrupt, and they were doing socialism policies. And here's another example of how it's never worked. Yeah, I mean, and they're basically doing, in a way, what happened to them could easily happen to the USA. That really, it's proof that it's failure.
Well, it's the same thing that we're doing here. I mean, if we look at our true debt, $125 trillion of unfunded liabilities, which is about 2 times, I believe it's about 2 times as much money as exists in the entire world today. Literally, if you took all the money in the world today, it would be less than $125 trillion, I think, by 2 times. And that's what we're looking at. That's that's where the debt of the United States truly is. But even if you're looking at $30 trillion, you're talking about the top 10, 20, definitely the bottom 30% of the world put together doesn't even equal that. But that's why we're seeing this fail. And it's something that is going to happen to more countries. I stand corrected when I said before it was East Africa. It's Eritrea, Eritrea. I believe it's Eritrea, is where another location in Africa where we're seeing the same thing that's happening in Sri Lanka. And we're going to see this happen in many places. Do you think Haiti is going to be able to afford the extra cost of food now that there's a food shortage and an energy crisis? Do you think Haiti's going to be able to just come up with the money and be able to pay for that? Of course not. And there's Santo Domingo. There is pretty much half of Central America, South America, go around the world. People are going to lose their minds. So this is a problem. And yes, Roderick, one of the people in the back room, they're talking about this. Could we see genocides from this? We've seen genocides from things far, far less. We've seen genocides in the Sudan just because someone says, I don't like your religion. And now you're talking about, and you've got food, you've got electricity, you've got water. This is the number one thing. And to say that we're going to introduce a lockdown or we're going to somehow punish people and not allow them to work and make money at a time that we're running into this stagflation, possibly into a depression, and they want to suggest this, you want to start a civil war. That's the best way to do it, I think. But I would love to hear from anyone else in the gallery. Tell me, guys, am I out of my mind or does that make sense?
I'm going to go to Roderick first. Roderick, go ahead.
Ooh, there's a lot to unpack here, but good evening and blessings to everyone. The whole thing with I want to go back forward. Right, let's talk about the Eritrean genocide that's happening at the hands of Ethiopia right now, and a lot of that is over territory and food right now, right? Because they have been in a drought in that in the Horn of Africa for at least I want to say at least 2 years now. 2-3 years, like hard drought.
On and off. We've been there for about 2 decades, on and off.
2 decades, right. So we have the Eritrean genocide going on right now, right? Where Ethiopia is literally coming in and wiping these people out, and it's all over food, it's all over farmland, et cetera, when it comes to that. The same thing with Sri Lanka, mentioned Sri Lanka, right? I personally think America, we're at that brink. We're there. But what has happened is the federal government has instilled fear into the patriots of this country not to come up there bothering them. They have said, you can't come up here and bother us, right? Let's look at January 6th and how they've labeled everyone that was even there a domestic terrorist because you were just there protesting or you happen to be standing outside the Capitol building, you're now a domestic terrorist, right? So they've instilled fear into the populace, so they won't go to Washington D.C. and level it flat, right? I mean, we're at the point like we are at the Pine Tree Riot moment. Forget the Boston Tea Party. We're at the Pine Tree Riot moment in our history, right? We're going right back into a second Revolutionary War, and it's going to be against our government because we are here. They're taxing us at all high heaven, right? They're lying to us about these different things, like these different diseases, things like that. And you were talking about lockdown, right? We need to be on the watch for Marburg because Marburg is popping up over Western Africa again. 2 confirmed cases in Ghana, both of them died, and Marburg has a 90% mortality rate. And they're in Europe. I was reading on the ECDC site, and they have 32 unexplained mysterious illnesses that's been hospitalized throughout the European Union.
Mm-hmm.
How could that be? And those people had traveled to Western Africa within 2 weeks prior. So you put right. You see what I'm saying? So we need to be prepared for that.
That's possible, but go ahead, Rory, please.
I just wanted to no keep going. No, I want to hear what you have to say, and then I'm going to chime in.
Well, I was just going to ask either the pastor or Demetries, let us know what you guys are seeing. That obviously we've seen things like it seems like, and tell me if I'm wrong, they're looking for the next terror, the next thing to be afraid of. It's monkeypox. It's going to be a pandemic. It's going to be everywhere. You need to get the smallpox vaccine to mix in with the pandemic medications because you have to be afraid and you can't go out and vote. And now we have, as Roderick's mentioning, there's these other diseases. By the way, don't even mention the fact that kids have these liver diseases that we cannot track down, that they stopped talking about a month ago. I wonder why. Is it the fact that we should be trying to prepare to lock down again? And can we survive it? Or is there another way to look at this? Let's go to Pastor. What do you think, Pastor?
Well, my thing is, if they were really concerned about it, they would be controlling our borders. Because with what I'm hearing, there's all kinds of things coming through the borders right now that is causing total chaos with a lot of our medical staff. They're treating them. So the first line of defense to me would be to begin to control our borders way before even locking anything down. But I think that's where a lot of the problems are coming. But Biden then wants to stir things up. It's getting close to election. You all have been talking about it. And they want to do a lockdown so everybody can go do the mail-in ballots so they can steal another election. And we know that's their main goal here. But our big thing is I'm just shocked with what I'm hearing that's coming from the border and the diseases and stuff coming over. Knowingly, it's coming through. So that's got to be the part that we control first is the border.
Yeah, and I want to bring something. Michael, you wanted to say something. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's people who may doubt that. You have to think, if America has one of the best healthcare systems in the world, and we know everyone else doesn't, then you can't tell me they're not bringing in disease, not because they want to, but because they don't have healthcare to do it. We know for a fact, 2018, there was an exponential increase in mumps and measles in Venezuela, and that has not decreased. And that's a fact. It increased by 10,000%, according to the CDC. But go ahead, Rory. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up the fact that, I was just reading a report actually. And we're talking about the border and how we need to secure it. Obviously, there's issues going on. But there was a report that came out today from Breitbart, and Breitbart's very conservative, saying that Biden has done more deportations than Obama and Trump combined. Did you see that report?
I had not.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking? You know what I'm talking about, right, Roderick?
Yep.
How do we explain? Do you guys see how it would be a confusing narrative? I mean, obviously, we see the videos of the border just flooded, but then, Roderick, we read reports like that on Breitbart, which is a very trusted conservative news source, So it's like I'm juggling two things. It's like you're juggling.
It's not confusing, Rory. It's not confusing, Rory. And I'm going to go right down this road because I always call this. I'll call it 1,000% straight for what it is. Right?
Yeah.
Whenever there's a Democrat in office, we have a lot of deportation, right? But listen at who the deportations are: Jamaican, Monteration, Haitians.
Right.
No, notice a trend there, right?
People that don't benefit their party.
No, not even that.
No.
They're all my skin color. They're all melanated like me.
Yeah.
Right. See, think about this a minute. Let's put this in full context. Remember, back during Trump's presidency, what the horseback CBP officer, they said, "Oh, they're whipping them" when it was split reins.
Yeah.
What was the picture?
Oh,
it
yeah.
was Haitians and Montserratians in that picture to gaslight people over the immigration. Look, they don't want the browning of America when they're letting lighter brown skinned people across the border. Every time there's a Democrat in office, you can look up the demographics on UCSIS. It is always the darker demographics that they are sending back and allowing the lighter melanated people to come across the border every single time.
I have seen that data. I do know that
Yeah.
is something that tends to happen. And it just shows you again that Democrats love to say, "Oh, we're doing this for the people. We're such great people." And then you actually look at it and it's like, "Oh, so you support segregation? Didn't we get rid of segregation?" No, but it's good for you. Somehow I don't think so.
Yeah,
but,
yes.
I like to see that data. I would like to see that myself. You have to let me know where I can find that out.
I know, Roderick, you probably have it. I've seen it. I don't recall.
Yeah, it's on USCIS and it's on DHS. I can find it for you and send it to you there, Pastor.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
And you guys are bringing up a great point. Segregation. You wanted to say something, Michael?
Oh, I wanted to hear, because we haven't given Commander Demetries.
Oh, Commander, absolutely. Commander, Commander, go ahead.
Well, first of all, to not be here on the first show of the S&P 500, I mean, that's you guys are doing God's work here and keeping the people informed, and it's so great to be here on a Saturday night. So, but there are a couple.
Glad you could join us, man. A pleasure. I'm happy you're here.
and I have your hat behind me. I'll be sending that today.
I love it.
Yeah. Get you one as well. But you're talking about the famines earlier, and in one of the previous talked about how Americans have seen things that they never imagined seeing in America in the years.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the famine. I mean, famines have preceded throughout history. Famines have preceded the falls, the most rapid falls of every type of empire and superpower, and we just had a little baby formula famine, right? I mean, we are seeing things in the United States that we never imagined. I mean, things in Africa and other places. I mean, there's massive corruption. We have our own corruption to deal with here, but it's not on the scale that these other people have to deal with in Africa and the Middle East and Asia and other places. But I wanted to touch, if I could, I wanted to chime in on, you were talking about Prime Minister Abe. The one thing that nobody's talking about is, the first thing that came to my mind is this was a Chinese hit job. I mean, even though he was the tensions, right? Japan, he was put in, and the people of Japan, but also their allies first. And he's he was actually making efforts to change the Japanese constitution, which nobody had the courage to do since the end of World War II, so that Japan could take on a greater role in defending themselves and Asia.
And did you guys see how mainstream media labeled him a right-wing extremist? That's what CBS this morning labeled him. And New York Times. I mean, come on. I mean, he was a liberal Democrat. That's how he ran in Japan. And I mean, these people, it's just like, just because he had some good photo ops and a friendship with Trump, they say he's a right-wing radical. And just because he wanted what's best for Japan, his country, he's a right-wing radical. These newspapers are ridiculous.
Exactly. He was forward-looking, and he saw the threat of China and North Korea, and he wanted Japan to take on a greater role. And I mean, I was a diplomat in with NATO as well, and we were making. I mean, he was actually we were expanding our NATO cooperation with Japan, which is not even in NATO's realm. I mean, because they understood the threat that China posed downrange.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask everybody something real easy. We currently, there is this thought amongst the Democrats, the progressives out there, that says that MAGA, Make America Great, a America First policy is evil, essentially. Let me ask you guys, in looking around the world in your lifetimes, your experience, what you've seen in the world, different places you may have been, the research you've done, am I correct in saying that any country that is not their country centric, whether it's Japan, Russia, I don't care, name a country in the world, if they're not focused on that country first and looking to promote that country first, historically, that country doesn't exist very long afterwards. Am I wrong or am I right?
You're absolutely right.
You're right. I mean, I can speak as someone who's been at the tip of the spear for our great nation as a Navy flyer. I spent much of my time strapping on a 50,000-pound craft and flying into combat zones around the world. And you know, it's we have some serious threats that are out there that we have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
No, I definitely see that.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you something, you know, we just saw the report, and this came out after my show the other night, and otherwise I would have talked about it on my show. Biden selling our oil to China with his son. And this report came out right after I got off the air Thursday night. Otherwise, I would have made this most of my show on Thursday. And reminder, I went 8 hours on Thursday. I don't even know how the hell I did that. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I literally fell into bed right after that. I couldn't even walk after that 8-hour show. But getting back to this whole China thing is mind blowing. And now I see a report out today. Governor Nome is now also warning that China is making deals with Biden on our fertilizer, on our other infrastructure that could easily be a threat to us in the near future. You know, if they get enough control, they could cut us off. And we could be looking at a similar scenario of what Russia's dealing with Germany. Because look at Germany and their energy sector. I mean, things could get really messy, and we're not paying enough attention.
Well, before anyone answers, I want to correct one thing.
Yeah.
We are already in a serious position because we are.
And last thing I'll mention on this, the tariffs have helped significantly with bringing wealth back to our farmers, back to business owners. And Biden is basically almost at the point where he's going to lift those. And that's going to be a devastation on our economy. And it's going to really wipe out a lot of sectors. And I hope everybody's prepared for the whirlwind that's about to come. But go ahead.
But that's not my biggest concern, believe it or not. And not to say that you're wrong. I agree with you. I see that problem. There's a bigger problem. And it's much more insidious. And most people haven't noticed it, I think. And that is that thanks to the Obama administration, we became a service economy. We stopped being manufactured. We are dependent on other countries around the world to make our stuff for us, including baby food, because that was the solution that we saw that Biden decided in is, let's get more international baby formula makers, not diversifying and creating more businesses in the United States itself. We're now dependent on other countries more and more. And China is one of the leading countries that is making all of our stuff.
And they're the ones that made us sick, and we're still taking supplies from them.
I know. And now imagine, forget about the tariffs. If they want to put the screws to us because they're upset with us on Taiwan, the Strait, the South Chinese Strait, the sea, or North Korea or South Korea, or a dozen different things. Our interactions with Germany or the way that Russia is being handled. If they're upset, all they have to do is just do what they're doing now. Slow down. It's not even they have to stop. They just need to slow down the tankers, slow down the these shipments that are coming to us, and we will self-destruct. That's the problem they have put us into. So when we think about why is Biden doing this? One, because Hunter was his front man making deals, and so he is compromised in his conversations with them. They have leverage on him on that basis alone, and the further leverage that because of Obama, we now have we're beholden to them to make our stuff, and we are not prepared to go through the process of making it ourselves. And so that's why he's doing this, and the media is not honest enough to say it's a direct consequence of a really bad policy, and there's no way out without a lot of pain. But is there anyone, and I'd like to hear from the rest of the panel, you guys tell me, does that make sense, and does that scare you, or do you think I've missed something?
Roderick, I'll go to you. Commander, go to you first. Commander, go ahead.
I would say China is not a friendly competitor. China is an adversary, and China is putting China first, and the United States is leading the way in helping China put China first, and we've become dependent on them. If anything, this pandemic has exposed is the fact that we rely too much on China. I mean, our industrial capacity to make gloves and PPE and syringes, but yet we continue to treat China. This administration continues to treat China as if they're a friendly competitor, and they're not. And nations. And I was saying, nations don't have friends. Nations have interests. And the governments of those nations have an obligation to look out for the interests of their people. The Chinese government is looking out for their interests, and they're succeeding and they're winning. And if we don't wake up and lead the divestment of China, and we're all going to become subjects to China. Read Sun Tzu. Supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. That's what the Chinese are doing. They're making the world dependent upon them. They are going around to the third world countries and even OPEC suppliers and saying, listen, the U.S. is at war with the oil and gas industry. They're at war with the mining, and we're going to be the biggest customers of you. So we want to do that in Chinese yuan. So one thing Americans haven't seen is the collapse of the U.S. dollar. Stand by for when that happens.
Right, and I want to add to Commander's point there too. Right, the COVID-19 pandemic, whatever anybody wants to call it, whatever that event was we went through, was evident of our supply chain issue. I mean, when we have companies that are making things out of scope, right? We have companies like GE making PPE. That's out of their scope. And they're rushing to make this stuff, and it's not the quality you would expect from a company that would specialize in something like that. That should have been a light bulb to every single American, like, oh, we really have a true supply chain problem. And it was before the ship thing even started. But I don't think many people looked into it that far because say, oh, they're going to help us out. They're going to transition over. That's not their scope. That's not what they do. When a car manufacturer is making PPE, ding, hello, problem. That means there's no companies making.
Hey, and is it fair to say that the drugs that we're getting from China, I mean, it's very similar than us going down to Mexico and walking into a pharmacy and thinking we're getting real Xanax or getting real Ritalin. I mean, we're getting like the bottom of the barrel baby formula. We're getting the bottom of the barrel sort of items from China. Don't you agree, Michael? I mean, it's chintzy stuff.
Well, before I answer, I want to make sure, Pastor,
Pastor, go ahead.
This time it was your turn to wait for everybody else. So I want to hear what you have to say first.
Yeah. Well, let's go. It was my fault because I had to jump off early Thursday, couldn't stay on. I saw that breaking about the oil being shipped overseas. I'm going to bring it up in the program. That was my fault for not getting that to
No,
you.
you're fine. And usually you do
I had
get us
no-
breaking news. You're good about that during the show, which I appreciate. Thank you.
So, but not only do we have the oil going over there, you know, again, I'm from the Appalachian Mountains. I'm coal country. A lot of our coal is going to China.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, a lot of the coke coming out of West Virginia and Kentucky is being shipped over there because we've got the left-leaning nuts that don't want us to use it, which would bring energy costs down if we did. Just think how much it's costing for them to mine that, load it up on trains, get it out of there, and get it on boats and ship it over there. And they say we can't use it, so we are in a catch here. We're in a situation where we're relying on them, and we're selling them everything we've got. I mean, my question also is, when Trump went in, our oil reserves were gone.
Yep.
Okay, he builds them up, overflowing more than enough. And then we have Biden going in, and he's selling it, not to help us, but to help China and get the money. Why are they trying to destroy even our oil reserves? There's something with that, too.
You're right.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
It's a good question because I cannot see the logic in that. Where's the logic in that? Oh, I sold them because it's going to help them in their difficulties. We have difficulties too. Again, that's the difference of MAGA or what, and this is why they call it MAGA or ultra MAGA. They won't say make America great. They won't say America first, which is what it means. That's why they say MAGA, because it distracts you from what it actually means and its purpose.
It's a trigger.
Absolutely terrified of people understanding that, hey, if we don't fix America first, if we don't work on America first, all of this fails. It all falls apart. And that's terrifying to me. Now, Rory, you were mentioning, you said drugs. You were talking about China and whether or not they're providing us with real medications.
A lot of it's bottom of the barrel. I mean, from what I read, the reports, I mean, it's not the quality that we would get if we were making it our own, you know, and you know, developing it in the USA.
We've known since, I can tell you that even back in the 1970s, it was well known always. Don't buy Chinese, it will fall apart. It's not good quality, whatever. Now, over the years, they've gotten slightly better with their quality because they've had to compete a little bit more. But at the same time, they don't have to compete that much because we are their number one client.
Right.
So am I surprised? I mean, they don't make anything. There was a few 7 years ago, lead in their milk, and it was something in their rice that they were sending to the United States. Yeah. And they were like, oops, sorry. And we just kept on buying milk and rice from them. But I mean, it was actually not just substandard to American standards. It was actually deadly. This was actually going to harm people. It's lead in milk. Okay, it's considered a poison. And we continue to buy milk from China.
Yeah.
Where the problem here, again, and the problem is the nations. And as Colonel Grimes mentioned, Demetries is saying, the problem is that they have a China first. I can't blame China for being a China first nation.
Of course not.
I don't blame any nation for being
I think it's great. First. Yeah. It's like we can't blame Russia and Putin for wanting what's right for their country, you know?
I don't have to agree with it. I'm not saying that it's good, but I completely understand why they're doing it. What I don't understand is why aren't we doing it?
Right.
That's the problem.
Well, look who's in office. if we had the king in there, I mean, we would be winning all day long like we were. And I'll tell you, that rally tonight in Alaska, the first in Alaska state history, and I'll tell you, though that video lines for miles and miles. The enthusiasm, I think, is higher than it was even in 2016 and 2020. I think he is going to get more votes than he's ever gotten in his life. There are people that voted for Biden that are in that line right now. I'll tell you, they were doing interviews with people. I mean, things are changing. And the fact, here's how impressive Donald Trump is. He can leave and no longer be in office, and he can not only maintain his loyal base, but he expands it and makes it even bigger. I mean, that you can't write a story that good or that impressive.
Well, elections have consequences,
right?
And people are seeing and feeling.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
And look. Go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say, well, look at what they're offering us, and I'd love to hear from everybody else about this. Did you hear about what happened with? Everyone heard, and just shake your head or make a wave or something. Everybody heard about the fact that, look, Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh went out to Morton's, a restaurant, a steakhouse, to go have a meal, and he was essentially assaulted by a group of leftists. Not only him, but everyone else in that restaurant, and then he had to leave. Now,
AOC enabled it. AOC and other leftist politicians went online and said it's okay to.
Afterwards, no. Afterwards, they were saying that, and in particular, and this comes from Axios. So if anyone that's watching this goes, "Oh, Mike, I only quote left-leaning sources almost always." Axios News came out with their article, "Let Him Eat Cake." AOC reacts to Kavanaugh's being forced out of restaurant by abortion rights protesters. This is coming from Axios News. That was, I believe, today. When they are offering, let them eat cake, let's destroy the system, attack the people, the very system itself. I mean, he's a Supreme Court justice. That's the system itself. It's okay to attack that. When we have Peter Doocy asking the press secretary, well, where is the line that separates intimidation of our Supreme Court and protest? And they go, we believe in peaceful protest. That doesn't answer the question.
Right.
AOC seems to be answering the question when she says, let them eat cake, go after them now. I think that's that when you put that, and then you look at President Trump, I don't think there's a problem in understanding, because literally I could put up my puppy and he would do better than what AOC is offering right now.
You have to understand, though, have to understand there are people stuck in their ways, and they don't care if President Biden is on his last leg and is crawling up the stairs. If it's, there's a lot of people that will never vote for Trump, regardless of how bad it gets with Biden. They're stuck in their ways. They're jaded, and they would rather have high gas than mean tweet. That's the sad reality.
Right.
But that's only 20% of the for everyone who doesn't know and doesn't follow. I'm a political junkie. It's 20% of all Democrats, 20% of all Republicans will always vote nothing but straight down the line Republican Democrats.
You're right, because over 80% of right now, the main concern for over 80% of Americans is inflation and how they're going to feed their family. You're absolutely right. The main concern is the economy and how we're going to get back on track. And I think people realize that how good they had it with Trump.
Yeah,
and the inflation is being amplified by the assault on our oil and gas sector.
Yeah, let's hear from Pastor first here, because we made you go last twice. So go ahead, go first, Pastor.
I always like going last. I can hear what everybody else says. I'm at a point that when you watch these left-leaning people attack our justice, our Supreme Court, they are supposed to be protected. They're supposed to be, in a sense, taken care of, because they are a buffer. And when you go after them, you're going after them trying to change their vote. They don't supposed to be a political person. They're supposed to be able to sit down, look at the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and judge things from that. As it is written. Don't revolve constantly. And they think that by bullying them, they're going to change their direction. Now, all of us on here before has had to deal with bullies. And when you've had to deal with a bully, you just allow them to push you so far. My brother and I was on a bus. And we didn't ride the bus a lot, but this time we were riding the bus, and somebody was picking on my little brother. And I let it go on for a while, but then the guy said something to my mom. You don't talk about my mom. Okay, who you are. Look, sicking boy. finally had to pull my brother off of him when he was trying to take his leg around the bottom of the seat to break it. And I pulled my brother off. But you know what happened? That bully never said another word.
Yeah.
It's going to come to a time, this is me personally, that the Democrats are trying to bully their way to get everything they want. That's all they are, a bully. Somebody's going to rise up and take care of this. People, the right's got to begin. I'm talking about, I don't call myself a complete radical. I'm kind of, I am a right person. And, I vote red. But we've got to speak up and say something. We've been quiet for so long that they think more they cry, more they pout, more they're going to get. And we've got to begin to speak up and say something. It is not right how they're treating our Supreme Court judges right now. Again, trying to bully them and scare them to get what they want. They need to be protected. I mean, that's my take.
All right.
Roderick.
So really, this whole thing started with Maxine Waters. Y'all remember that infamous side of the road
If you
thing?
see them in the streets, give them hell. Yeah, we remember.
Right, exactly. But see, here's the other thing with that, right? What these lefties don't understand is that their right to protest is to redress government. A Supreme Court justice is not the government. They are not the system. They are the interpreters of said system.
They're appointed. They're not voted in. They're appointed.
Right? So going to harass them is literally they're misusing their First Amendment right in that regard. First of all, that's why we have harassment statutes. This is why we have stalking, right, when it comes to political officials or judicial officials, because if you're not, you revoke your First Amendment right, that goes out of the window when you do not use it appropriately, because having your rights also carries great responsibility. And if you don't know how to exercise those appropriately, you lose those. And to Pastor's point about standing up and saying something, this is how we fix that problem. First of all, we go like on Twitter. I was on Twitter the other day, the Stop DC movement. They posted a tweet saying, "Oh, well, we'll pay $50 if you can identify one of these judges in public." I'm like, okay, you take that tweet, you screenshot it, what have you, save it. You go to where these people are showing up to protest these judges. You take video, then you go to your local police department and be like, "Hey, I want these people arrested because they are disturbing the peace, and they more likely do not have a permit to protest here." Period. That's how we start stopping these people. And if the police does not want to do said things and they don't have a permit, then we start suing the cities for punitive damages. We got to go. We can go completely the civic route with that, and we make them pay for it, and they will control these leftist mobs that want to go out and just do this random stuff. I bet you they'll calm down real quick if we go that route with them.
And can you imagine if this was a Trump supporter harassing Ketanji Jackson Brown outside of a restaurant? What the media would be
been
doing?
in jail. We've been in jail. It wouldn't have been no media. Been in jail without no bail.
And we talk about on the show all the time, it's like the Democrats own the law. I mean, they own the justice system, and they have forever. The double standard is quite fascinating. I've never seen anything like it. And if we're ever going to make a real difference, we have to really clean house in these law enforcement organizations and the higher ups. And Michael, I mean, how would you do something like that? I mean, I know it's a long process, and we've been trying to do it for many years. Trump, did somewhat of a good job in that area, but there's still a lot more work to do. And sadly, the work that he did was kind of reinstated by the Biden administration, with corruption. So, I mean, it was pretty much erased. But go ahead.
Well, no, I wanted to hear from Commander first.
Well,
go ahead.
So we're dealing with a pandemic in our nation of activism without borders or boundaries, and it goes beyond Maxine Waters telling people to go harass conservatives in their restaurants, at their homes. We're seeing it. There's nothing that's sacred, and from the so the kill zone of the future of our nation is the minds of our children, and so we're seeing activism without borders, boundaries being introduced into cartoons, into our entertainment. There's no escape from, the Marvel universe changing because the cartoon characters are changing. Disney characters are changing to suit a political agenda, and nothing is sacred. We're dealing with activism without borders or boundaries, and even the military. I mean, we're seeing things that has everybody seen Top Gun?
Yep.
Yeah, I saw both of them.
Wasn't that refreshing? I mean, I had so many people that came up to me and say, I mean, that was my life.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you sent me photos, you sent me videos. I mean, you were like the real Top Gun commander. I mean, that was the life you lived in the military.
Look, I trained to do where they sent me to do it, but the beautiful thing about
you were a fighter jet pilot, right?
No, I flew Hawkeyes, spy and reconnaissance planes off carriers, though. We were the first. We were the first in and the last out. So, but and in fact, in the movie, my plane is call sign is Comanche. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah. But the one refreshing thing about Top Gun, and it just captured the essence of not only naval aviation but the military, and we take an oath to support and defend the Constitution, not a president, not a prime minister, not a political party, and there's no greater honor than taking that oath and on range and knowing that whoever you're with is going to act. And
right.
I served under multiple presidents and Democratic control of the Congress, Republican control of the Congress. My job as a Navy flyer was to be the best at what I did, and that's the way our military thinks. Right. And toward the tail end of my, a few years ago, we started to see, during the Obama administration, some, trying to introduce some of this wokeness stuff, but there was pushback on that. But I'm afraid that what we're seeing right now, and what I've seen online, is just unbelievable. That the military is losing its focus and not concentrating on us being the best at what we do. And our aim is to be the best at what we do. So we don't, because our job is to be a deterrent. But if we have to use those capabilities, it'll be a quick victory. And we're not for that. Especially dealing countries like China and Russia just announced they launched a new first of its type nuclear stuff that is capable of launching a nuclear torpedo, which will it's a long range nuclear torpedo that will create a nuclear tsunami. So our whole North American defense network, which is based on geometric calculations by supers to intercept a missile that's coming in from high altitude, it's obsolete. We have a high-tech Maginot line right now.
Yep.
We're not focused on dealing with these threats. And yet, so I'm running for the U.S. Congress. I have to say that. And here in Florida's 15th congressional district.
Oh.
My website is .gop. And anyone, you've had other congressional candidates on here.
Yeah.
Now Congress are on the board of directors of the United States of America, deciding how we are going to spend our blood and dealing with our current threats and challenges as we prepare to defeat our future threats and challenges. What we're seeing right now is we have a serious we have some serious issues with leadership in Washington, and we need to really focus on priorities are in order, as we were saying, to put America's first.
No. And what you said is terrifying. About a missile with Russia. I think
it's a torpedo.
It's terrifying.
And you live.
A torpedo. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
You live in Palm Springs, but a nuclear tsunami could do some damage.
No, and what's stopping Russia from doing this? Do you think? They've got Biden in office. I know they have a lot of ties. They have a lot of interests in the U.S. I think it would be a really dumb move for them to do that. I mean, even though we're lacking in our military department, we could still counter pretty, aggressively to the extent that they get, badly damaged. But I'm wondering, what do you think, Commander, is the reason that they haven't done that yet? Just because they're so fed up?
Look, I mean, we can't look at, Putin as a whole different type of adversary, and he's a man who answers to no one and has control of. I mean, basically, Russia is, the Russian government is probably the largest and most heavily armed crime syndicate in the world. And I was a NATO Russia expert and advisor to NATO's maritime commander and air and space commander, my last assignment in the Navy. And I spent a lot of time in Ukraine, but I had also gone to Russia in 2003. Remember when President Bush looked into Putin's eyes and he saw goodness, decided we want to do more things together. So I actually was one of the first I was the first U.S. naval aviator to be sent over to Russia and did Russian pilot survival training with Russian aviators. I was actually on a Russian reality show, and that was quite a fascinating experience. And the people are good people, but they have no say. They have nothing to do with their government because they have no say, whereas we do, right? So that's the difference. So we're dealing, in the case of some of our adversaries right now, we're seeing emboldened adversaries as we've never seen before. And I think the tipping point for that was, I know the tipping point when we retreated from Afghanistan, the way we did it, it emboldened these adversaries. And I was one of the first U.S. guys into Ukraine after Russia went into Crimea the first time. And I was sent there to make an assessment and work with the Ukrainians. And that was from the Obama administration. And then I also, when President Trump came in, it was night and day when he started into lethal aid and stronger, and they were actually building their deterrent and then, of course, at the tail end, when Biden came in, he issued the executive order that terminated the aid and the training and the exercises we're doing, and he basically greenlit. But the reason Putin went into Ukraine was because he saw how his Taliban guys, in 2 days without firing a shot, took over a country of 42 million that the U.S. had been in for 20 years. And so Putin actually saw that, and he underestimated, what he could. I mean, he thought that he could do the same thing in Ukraine because he understood that the Europeans did not have faith, and he knew that with President Biden that the U.S. would stay out of it. But he underestimated what the will of the people. And I can tell you, like, I work closely with the Ukrainians on the ground, and these are proud people. They're proud Christians, proud of their country. They're proud of their history, and they will fight. They will stand to the last man. But they even back when I was there, they said, "Hey, this is a fight, and it's going to have to be our victory." And so going back to the $40 billion that we gave, that was crazy. The Russian budget is $60 billion.
Right.
We had enough weapons. We had enough war reserve munitions, as well as in stockpiles, that we could have given the Ukrainians right away without throwing 42 enrich a bunch of Beltway bandit middlemen, and the Ukrainians are not going to see any of that.
And Michael, I want to let you respond. I know you want to say something. I just want to say one more thing. Meanwhile, our military is focused on, the headline from the other day is transgenders are now going to shower with in the same shower as whatever sex they identify as. Which, I mean, and when we're focusing on wokeness, we're not even focusing on self-defense. We're not focusing on weapon material. All these other countries are so far advanced and ahead of us. I mean, it's very sad where our priorities are at. Michael, go ahead.
It's not that It's not that everyone's all that far ahead per se.
They just have,
but it is the problem, and we know it's a problem because the recruitment into the United States military at this time is at an all-time low.
Yes.
Because we're trying to be warm, fuzzy, and friendly, saying, hey, join up. It's like any other job. It's just going to be fun. It's going to be you and your 2 moms and your 3 dads, and you can jump into any shower that you want to anytime. I'm sorry, that's not a military. Commander, you understand this. I've been in the military. You've been in the military.
Order and discipline.
Yeah, the militaries are disciplined.
They just showed videos of military now making people use pronouns. I
know. And that's part of the stupidity of it. Okay, you know what's your name in the military? Your rank. That's it. Corporal, sergeant, captain,
military, your rank.
That's it. Here's your rank. Here's your last name. That's your pronoun. Period. And if you need more than that, I'm sorry, we don't have time for it. I don't have time to figure out what your pronoun is when I need you to go up that hill in front of that. Go after the enemy. He's up on a hill. There's a big empty clearing in front of him. He's got a machine gun, and you got to go kill him. I don't care how you do it. Just go do it. I don't care what you want to call yourself. You can call yourself Susie and say that you're a toaster. And as long as you take out the enemy, I don't care because it's not important. It doesn't get the mission done. And that is the attitude that we have everywhere else in the world. That is the attitude of the military. We are destroying our country's ability, and we are not adapting. And we are adapting to be soft and fuzzy and ineffective and not having a military, being incapable of being able to defend ourselves while taking away the ability of our public from being able to defend themselves. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is saying, hey, let's get aggressive. Because, yes, Joe Biden, obviously, either he is an absolute idiot or his commanders are absolute idiots.
Lloyd Austin and Milley. I mean, look at all the idiots he has surrounding him. I mean, these people, they are dumber than a goddamn doornail.
They're really not. I wish I could say that they're absolutely stupid. No, they're purposive. They're not dumb. They're purposive. They want to do this on purpose. They know better. And when you are being confronted with hypersonic missiles from North Korea, guaranteed, if North Korea is actually firing off hypersonic missiles, everyone else has a hypersonic missile because they're not the leaders in anything. And if we are looking at nuclear armed torpedoes such that they can be used as a offensive nuclear ballistic weapon, we're talking about I want people to understand, if you set off a nuclear missile, a nuclear torpedo in the water
on a coastline
about 50 miles off the coast of the East Coast, you're talking about flooding probably 25 miles into inland. You're talking about devastating.
Contamination. Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the contamination and how that's going to affect things. Not even talking about the fallout that's going to come from that. Just from the initial tidal wave, this will look like one of what was that movie? 2012, I think it was.
Yeah.
It's going to look like that wave coming through. You're talking obliteration, and we don't have a counter to that. In fact, there is no counter to that because it's physics. The only way to counter that is to stop the submarine from firing, which means we need to have attack submarines. We need to have other defenses. We need a strong military with a strong leader. You know what's the most effective way to stop any country from trying to attack American citizens, whether in the military or civilian? Having someone they are afraid of. You put up a Reagan, you put up a Trump, you put up a George H.W. Bush, you put up somebody who they think, and I love it when they say, that's an American cowboy. They are terrified of American cowboys, and they get calm quick when a cowboy shows up, and they don't know. It's like, is he gonna treat me like Gaddafi? Are they gonna drop a bomb on my house, and I may or may not be there? Are they going to send in a bunch of troops over into Grenada and just take over the country? Because that's what cowboys do. I don't want to be that guy. I don't because the world's going to be mad. Yeah, but he's going to be dead. And that country's going to be calmed quickly. Being angry, the problem will be gone.
Right.
That's why we need strong leaders. That's why we need a strong military. Because the fear is the only thing that stops nuclear weapons in this world right now is fear of strength. Because I believe in an America first, MAGA, ultra MAGA policy. And that will scare the hell out of the rest of the guys and keep them calm.
Hey, I want to touch on something. Unless anybody has any thoughts. Anybody have any thoughts?
No, I wanted to add on to what Michael was saying.
Yeah.
I want to add on what Michael was saying, right? And I want to bring an aspect of the culture war into this, right? Because he's right on point with it, right? What we have right now, right, are a bunch of pre-boomer politicians running our government, right? Throughout time, throughout history, right, from 1788, from our founding, from actually the United States of America started 1788 up until now, our federal government resembled the generation it was in. That stopped at Gen X. Name me a popular Gen X politician in the federal government right now. Name one. Can't. Because they are all the old pre-boomer, if not early boomer politicians that are holding these seats up. So now what we have is the reflection of our country is us Gen Xers. I think all of us, except for Rory. I know Rory's not a Gen Xer. He's probably a Xennial.
I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
Our legislatures don't reflect us. It's either we got the crazy Gen Z crowd that's in Congress, or we got the pre-boomers. So now we, the strong ones that had the latchkey kids that had to go through all the nonsense and learn everything on our own, we learned how to go through all that adversity that our parents had to go through, right? We are the final product of integration, right? Where we learn how to get along with everybody regardless, right? We learned how to cook and clean and everything at 8, 9 years old because we had to do it because our parents had to work, right? We are the people that should be running this nation. And I guarantee you, if more Gen Xers were in the federal government, all this wokeness would not exist because we would squash it immediately. It would be what's your pronoun? Your pronoun, what's your first name? That's your pronoun. We're done. We're not doing him, zim, sim, salabim. We're not doing any of that. We're done. Yeah. And this is what we're doing. And that reflects on our military. That reflects on our military because those of us, I was in the foreign service for 20 years, right? So, those of us that took that oath that are Gen X, we understand this. Yeah. We understand this concept. No, but then we have Gen Zers again, right? Oh, no, everything's offensive to me. You can't call me.
So it's a bullet from an AK-47 held by some freaked out terrorist, fanatical individual in the world. Guess what? You can't handle me calling you him, her. You know what? I'll call you it. That's what we learned, right? Every one of us, when you went, it's he, she, it. If you know what, I'm on a field of battle. If I can't figure it out, I'll call you it. I'll call you rock. I don't care. I'll call you whatever it takes to take out the enemy. I don't got time for your feelings. Your feelings, when we get back to base, if you're still alive, you can tell me about your feelings. And, maybe I'll apologize, maybe I won't. But more importantly, we got to get back to base. That means you got to live. So fight.
Right. That's
what would be good right now if they put don't ask, don't tell back into place. That would be a good rule to put back into the military. And also, let's not forget where all of this crap started with the pronouns, with the gender identity, with them trying to enable pedophilia now. This all started with allowing the LGBTQ community to get married. Once you give them a few inches, they'll take miles and miles. Now they're doing drag queen story hour. We have all these different factors going into place. Michael, you know where I'm going with this.
I do not blame the LGBTQ.
I'm not, but that's how it started, and then they slowly pushed their agenda.
No, it wasn't them. It's the activists. I know many people.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. The activists.
We need to make that clear because I think one of the easiest ways they try the left will try to denounce us and to tell people they don't need to listen to us is that we're not clear. That's why I very often say progressive when I'm not Democrat, but progressive. Why I'm trying to be very specific, because I've heard the argument all the time. Oh, well, that doesn't cover me. See, you're just being too general. No, I'm really not. And so and they'll say, oh, well, you just hate the LGBTQ. Are you insane? I got family members, got friends, grew up. I could care less. You know, you're a grown adult. Do whatever the hell you want as long as you don't harm anyone. But the activists.
It's a money-making machine.
Oh, yeah, it's a big money-making machine. And the activists who are like 1% of any of these groups, you know, you go to the trans community, people I've known in the trans community for a decade now. And when I've spoken to them to find out about their lives, to talk to them, to become friends of mine, guess what? They never wanted this. They didn't want the attention. They wanted to go out and do what they do and live a life and be respected. That's it.
And the sad part is though, these 1% of these activist groups, they're able to convince and manipulate and brainwash a good majority of people to believe that they can be all these different things and they can start doing all these things that were taboo 10, 20 years ago. It's just become madness. Go ahead, though, Michael. Sorry.
Yeah, let me throw this in there real quick. What you just described, Rory, is coward pivot. That's exactly what you just described.
Yes. That is. And we're seeing it actively take place.
Yep.
And we are seeing, and it is counterproductive even to the people they talk to. That's why when we listen to progressives, they will contradict themselves within the same paragraph, the same sentence, the same issue. They will put one of their allies against another of their allies to promote a third ally that have nothing to do with each other on a regular basis. You can't be a feminist unless you happen to be, you believe in CRT, which may or may not fall in line with being a feminist, and you have to believe in trans, which actually defeats the whole purpose of the feminist movement. Listen to Bette Midler, Parker Posey, so many people talking about that. Macy Gray, you know, and they're saying, well, if I'm a woman, which may or may not be able to define, then you're telling me I can't be a woman because everyone's a woman and being a woman is meaningless. And this is the problem with progressive ideology. We do not have enough people with balls. And I know there's a few of us. We're here right now. Each of us here right now, and on social media, when we're not getting banned, when we're not being removed because fun thing recently.
It happened 6 or 7 times tonight.
No, they wouldn't let us on to start the show. I recently got a strike from YouTube because a black Republican candidate was telling me about the crime in his community in Rochester, New York, and they called that hate speech. I'm a black Hispanic. He's a black Hispanic. We're talking about crime in Rochester, New York, and that's why he's running for an office. And they said that's hate speech. 2 black men can't talk about crime in their community that someone's running an election for. That is hate speech. How? And this is where they get us, and that's why I get so frustrated with all this. But yet, that's why it's necessary that we have to be very specific sometimes, so that they can't pull these stupid tricks and try and rip us off. By the way, Commander, when you were speaking before, it broke up a little bit. For people to know, Commander Grimes is running in Florida. His website, you can check it out at grimes.gop so that you can hear that, because I know it broke up when you had said it.
And I want to bring up, and everybody I know wants to hear about this, and I'm excited for Commander to run in Florida. I think he'll win. I think he'll prevail. I think he can definitely change the system and bring the U.S. back to where it should be and really bring us the proper leadership that D.C. deserves. But here's what I want to bring up something. You know, with what happened in New York State recently, it's dominating the headlines right now. The guy in the convenience store, after hours, it's late at night. You have a thug come in there, basically, initiate altercation
No,
you know,
no,
I mean, beating him literally.
that's not exactly how it happened. I want to be.
I'm gonna let Michael explain this, but we all know it was self-defense. But they're basically charging the guy with murder right now.
Yes, but I want to be clear about how this happened because they're going to call us out on this. Say, "Oh, you're just racist." You don't know. So let's be very exact. According to the records that have come out from the left-leaning media, what we know is a woman came into the store. She couldn't afford a bag of chips, apparently.
Yep, chips.
And she was upset because the store owner, who is also a minority, these are all minorities that are involved in this, that he wouldn't let her just take it. So she went out to her car, and in the car is her boyfriend, who's an ex-con, and he is.
And let me correct the record here. He was in prison for about 3 years, from what I heard. He had recently completed his parole or something, but he had a long history and novel of crimes. But keep going.
Yeah, which is why he's an ex-con.
Yeah.
And so she tells him, so he gets up and comes into the store, and without putting any money forward, and there's a big meme going on in Twitter right now, across the media right now, that he's wearing either a fake or a real, very expensive shirt, a shirt that's more expensive than, my shirts right now, probably more expensive than my suit. I don't know the brand. I could care less. And instead of paying for the food, he decides to go in behind the counter and initiates an assault against that store owner, starts beating him down with witnesses there. And the man decided to fight back and defend himself, picked up a knife and defended his life, which wound up killing that ex-con. That is the full context. That is exactly how it moves, step by step by step. They can't tell me it's racist. Everybody in there is a minority. This was in a low-income community, so they can throw out all that kind of crap when we're talking about it. And the fact I would say is that was absolutely justified. You do not charge that. You don't charge. How can you charge someone with murder for defending my life against someone who has purposefully come into my, not only just my business, but to come into a small area to confront me and attack me, and I have no idea when he's going to start. And we know that now. We know he has a history of violence. Yeah, my answer is I'm going to, I know I'm military, I'm going to take you out.
Yeah.
Because I don't have time to sit there and go, hey, let's negotiate this. We need a social worker to come on down from the police office. We need a social worker to come in. We can negotiate the terms of what is upsetting you right now, and why is it that you're in this aggressive mentality. Sorry, I don't got time for that. I'm going to pick up the knife, stab him, and he's lucky I don't got a gun. But that's me. What do you guys think?
I'll go real quick. Then I want everybody else to get their thoughts. But you look at it; they're trying to make it a race thing, and that's absolutely ridiculous. Black Lives Matter is all over the place with this. I mean, they're all over the place with their hysteria. They're crying. They're trying to, put out their nonsense. And this guy is being charged with murder, and it's ridiculous. It's absolutely, and we all know why. It's because it's a black guy. It's Alvin Bragg, the DA, who purposely wants to create division. He has been letting hardcore criminals, off the hook. He's been punishing the innocent like crazy. It's nonstop. But go ahead, Roderick.
No, go ahead. I'll pass. I'll go after the fact. I've been talking first and too often. I gotta learn how to shut my mouth.
No, I want to hear you. I know you have go. I know you have thoughts on this.
Go ahead. I'll let the two other gentlemen go.
Commander, I'll let you go.
Hey, look, for me, self-defense is self-defense, and a person was assaulted, a person defended themselves, and that's it. I don't need to know the background or the history or, these are the facts, and that's what we need to get back to. Is we need to get back to the basics, but also, going back to BLM too, and we have another great congressman in a neighboring district, Greg Stubbe, and I don't know if you know, about a month ago, he tried to put BLM on the terrorist list.
Yeah, domestic terrorist list.
And again, this is an organization that emboldens criminals, that is advocating for lawlessness, and defunding the police, and it's a terrorist organization terrorizing people in the communities that it's operating in. And what disgusts me is, I was on a leadership team at Amazon as well, was military, and I remember when all the 180 days of rioting and everything was going on, and a very strict policy where people coming into Amazon, they don't do politics at Amazon, and everybody was worried that people started showing up wearing the BLM T-shirts and worried that they're boycotted. This is a movement, and so what they do, they went the opposite direction. They put buckets of BLM, at the front door, and people were coming in their BLM T-shirts and BLM pins. It was ridiculous, and this, this is now with that would be the equivalent of in the 60s if these companies were, when you went to the Ford Power in Michigan, they would give you a Black Panther pin or something, so this is really crazy, and we're going to look back at this and say, like, how did we let this happen? I mean, this is, we're once again, we're through not just our actions but also the inaction of people who, like these different district attorneys and attorney generals, who refuse to honor their oath, to protect and to serve. And we have to figure out a way to hold these people accountable for that.
And the fact that self-defense is even, up for debate, and we even have to justify this matter, is sickening that we've come to this point in our society. I mean, it should have never got to this level. And I mean, it's scary for any future citizen that has to run into this sort of scenario. I mean, it's like, Jesus. I mean, you don't know what these DAs are going to do, especially if it's involving, somebody of color that they're.
No, we do know what they're going to do. Oh, we just lost Pastor. But we do know what they're going to do, and that's the problem. Right. Is Pastor coming back, or did we lose him? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there he is.
Pastor, go ahead.
Back. Well,
go ahead, Pastor.
Okay, I like what everybody said so far, but Roderick up there wouldn't talk, so I guess I'll let him go last. So the question is, why would anyone want to live in New York? I mean, you can't defend yourself. You can't defend your property.
Garbage everywhere. There's homeless everywhere.
I work hard.
Pretty bad crime.
Me and my wife work hard for it. I lived in a one-room shack when I was growing up. My dad worked his butt off to get us out of it. We had to put wallpaper so we wouldn't see the snow and it couldn't blow in. We had to use a cane stove to cook with. My dad worked his butt off. He taught us to work our butt off for what we got. You have a right to protect you and your stuff. Now, if I want to give it away, that's one thing, but somebody trying to steal it is a whole other thing. If I know somebody's in need and I've got it, I'm going to do what I can. But why would you want to live in New York? Why would you vote for this people in office that will not allow you to protect yourself and protect your stuff?
I'm not convinced, though, that these people are getting voted in necessarily. I think a lot of these politicians have a lot of their votes bought. I mean, especially the higher ups, especially the big timers, like the Cuomos of the world, the Pelosi's of the world, the Schumers of the world, the de Blasios of the world. I could go on and on.
I wish that
Michael's shaking his head no.
I wish I could say that's the case, but I live in New York and I know New York politics, upstate and downstate. No. There are people
Michael, we need to get you out of New York.
Michael, you refuse to believe there's a small percentage of people in the Senate or Congress like Pelosi, Lindsey Graham, the career-long politicians Schumer, McConnell. You don't think they're automatic guarantees every election?
The actual number is 88%. If you're a member of Congress and you've been elected once, you have an 88% chance of being reelected for life. After you've been elected 3 times in a row, the chances of you losing an election is equal to the chance of you dying in office. That is the exact number.
But look at how many at how many seats Trump has reversed, though. I mean, look at how many rhinos he's gotten out of there and turned them into outsiders.
Not to say that that's not. I'm not saying that we.
You're saying that's a rare exception from what history has shown us.
Yeah, that is the historical fact. Now, when you have strong leaders, some of these things change. People feel like there was a poll recently, I believe it was in March of 2022, 84% of the population do not feel like they can speak freely about any of the issues that we've talked about today. The only group that actually believes that they can actually speak freely are the far left at 67%. That tells you the nature of what we're seeing right now. But before I go, I don't want to go into that, and I know we're running out of time for the show as well, but Roderick,
we can go a little longer. We can go a little extra time.
Well, it's a little late here on the East Coast, but Roderick, everyone else spoke. I want to hear
Roderick, go ahead, buddy.
Well, I'll preface my future statement by saying that I'm a pro-life absolutist, except for when it comes to inalienable right to self-defense. You will be, as one of my favorite sheriffs here in Florida says, you will be graveyard dead. Okay? Oh, y'all know I'm talking about Sheriff Grady. Sheriff Grady. That's Sheriff my man Grady. Right there. Yes, sir. Let me tell you something. If you and anybody, any type of way, try to impede my inalienable right, defend myself, I guarantee you, you will have lawsuits up, down, one side or the other, and halfway across Florida when I'm done with you. First of all, right? Because here's the thing, right? If we start getting to a point in our society that we cannot defend what we own, even down to our own body, if we get to that point, we will end up back in the antebellum. Yep. Let's just keep that all the way real. We'll end up in the antebellum. I don't mean to be a fearmonger or a shock factor, but I'm just telling you exactly what it is. You will become property because, again, what's his name saying, the WEF, Klaus Schwab? Yes. You will own nothing and love it.
Yes. Yeah.
That you will own nothing and be happy is the exact statement.
Right? That includes your body. Because Benito Mussolini also said that men will grow tired of defending liberty. And we're at that point right now where people are tired of defending liberty. Right? They're just like, okay, we'll just give it to the central government. And this is what we're seeing.
And Roderick, think about everything they want to do to us. They want to microchip us. They want to put us all on a social credit score system. They want to control, obviously, our bank accounts. They want to control every aspect of our life, whether we have social media. I mean, it goes on and on. Go ahead.
Because people are tired of defending and fighting for liberty. That is the problem. They have beaten majority of Americans into submission.
You know what's really funny?
What's that?
This is so not new.
It's not new, but it's more visible. It's more apparent.
Here's the thing. It's not, because I just realized something when we're talking about this. I remember hearing this being described once before. And do you know when it was? Captain America 2.
Like superhero movie?
It was the Marvel Hydra, and it was Emo
on the
computer screen saying exactly this. I mean, literally, it's happening so much in our faces, and we've become so conditioned not to pay attention to the politics that when we have Captain America, Winter Soldier, they literally put in Baron Zemo saying that Hydra infiltrated all of the government, that they've been doing exactly what we are just now describing, that people are going to get tired of liberty. And the answer was not to commit a war and force everyone in, but to let them get tired, let them ask us to take over their lives.
Right, and make it look like that we wanted it.
Yeah, we wanted it. And that's scary that it's not life imitating art. It's art inspiring life, or life inspiring art. But it scares me that it's so present and it is so real that when you put it in a movie, it's not even parody anymore. It's just accepted as, oh, yeah, whatever. That's just that thing.
Well, it's happened right now, and everybody just wants to be blind to it.
Yeah, and it's just like, no, just didn't even talk about that. Okay.
We were going through the TV the other day, and I don't have cable, but how much I wanted to be on the first program, Rory. I'm camping out tonight. My wife already went to bed, and I said, I've got to be on this program tonight because it's the first one.
Yes.
So we're camping out. So she was going through, I hooked up the cable on the thing, and the news media was saying having less guns, the facts show if we took people's guns away, crime rate would go down. And she looked at me and said, they're lying. I said, yeah, we all know they're lying because they're trying to feed the young people. I said, they want young people to hear this so they'll believe it.
Yeah.
Just keep saying something long enough, people will believe it.
Hey, Michael,
and it's not true.
Michael, what do you think? Another 15, 20 minutes. I want to.
Let's go 15. Let's go 15 because in New York State, it's
that works. I want to get to something here. I want to mention something to everybody. There's just so much. There's so much. What about? I want to hear everybody's opinion on Elon Musk. I want to know what everybody thinks is going to come of that because I think he's basically playing with them. I think he's going to get it for a much better deal. I think he'll get it way cheaper, basically for nothing. I don't think this is totally done. I think Elon Musk is playing some sort of strategic, planning game here. Michael, I'm going to go to you, and then I'm going to give more thoughts here shortly.
Let's hear from the panel first, because I have probably the unique way of looking at it. I want to hear from the rest of the panel.
Let's go to Commander.
I was just saying, Michael's probably trying to make it the last call here before the end of the night. But
well, I got another podcast, my show tomorrow at 2:30 that goes 4 hours at a time. So it's going to be a long one.
Commander, go ahead.
All right. Well, I just have to say, we got Elon Musk is a great American, and there's only one Elon Musk. Why don't we have more of them? Right. I mean,
what do you think is going to happen with the Twitter thing? I mean, they are taking legal action. It's turning into a huge media circus. I mean, and it's going to go back and forth. I feel like they're going to have to come to some sort of deal. Commander, do you have any thoughts?
I would bet my money on Elon Musk that he's going to win, and he's going to get a better deal, and he's going to make Twitter a better platform.
I mean, and there's a lot of theories behind this. There's a couple theories that he may, buy it and delete it. He may buy it and do other things to it. I mean, there's just so many different ideas I hear circulating. I just don't know what to believe. Pastor, I'll go to you.
Imagine if he bought it and he deleted it, and then he sold his delete as an NFT. He'd just make all.
Yeah, he would.
Wow. That's not a bad idea. Pastor, go ahead.
I think he'll get a better deal. I think he'll end up buying it. I think he'll get a better deal. I think that right now he is being Trump-like.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not buying it. I'm backing up. And then they said, we're going to sue you and make you buy it. Which, he's got a buyout clause in it. Trump brought it up today to Riley, and he said he looked at the contract. It's crazy, is what he said. He said it's just an awful contract. But he can buy himself out. I think he'll buy it for less. I'm on all the social media. I've been kicked off some, but I'm back on. So it's I hope he buys it. I do. I hope he buys it and turn some things around. We know as many people that say it's on there as not on there. It's not as big as they want to make it because they want to make more money on it. But I heard the value has dropped down, $20-some a share since then. So he's stupid not to play and try to get it cheaper. So I believe he's working on it to get cheaper. Michael, I want to go back real quick and say something about us all being on here real quick and talking. I'm a minister, and I know a lot of people say, Pastor, you need to be quiet. You just need to pray and let the Lord move and pray for our country. But faith without works is dead. I made a decision that I'm going to have to be vocal as a minister and as an American. I've got to speak up and say things are wrong. And Roy, I've been doing this for the last number of years because I've been on your show when, before you took your break.
Yeah, I was doing radio. Years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of ministers need to start speaking up. It's time to take our country back. It's time to speak up. And a lot of what happened, Roe versus Wade, and all that, ministers were afraid to say anything. You know, I'm not worried about the crowd. I'm worried about the truth. I'm worried about what's right.
And Pastor, what's terrifying is now you have churches promoting abortion, saying it's okay for the woman to choose. Now I saw signs with churches showing pronouns, and I'm just like, Catholic churches even, and I'm appalled. I'm disgusted. And you even have the Pope, who I think is the Antichrist, promoting this sort of nonsense, who I don't consider he's not my Pope. He doesn't represent my
all of this, Roy, all of this is to destroy the United States.
Yes.
Trying to use this, you know, if you don't know you're a man or you're a female and this, and I mean, everybody that's got any common sense knows if you're a man or you're a woman. And all of that, everything is to destroy this country. That's all what it's about. That's the reason the Democrats push all this stuff. They do not want us to be the powerhouse that we are. That's the main reason.
True. It's true.
Well, look, if you're
and Roderick, I'm going to go to you, but I want to say one more thing about Twitter real quick. I will say that Twitter is still the most powerful platform on social media by a long shot. So if Elon Musk is going to take over it, I still think he's still in the driver's seat. I mean, True Social is a great platform. It still has a long way to go, though, in terms of, you know, the popularity level, in terms of the user base, in terms of it being the first go-to source where people are going to put all their information. I mean, Twitter is still, you know, a long ways ahead. But Roderick, go ahead.
I'm going to say Twitter's a threat in the hand of Elon Musk. Now, this is my downwing spidey sense going off, right? Because a lot of us downwingers, we don't like the technocracy. Like, we denounce the technocracy altogether, right? Mm-hmm. So here's where I'm going, right? Elon Musk has a chip called Neuralink.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Twitter has the most advanced algorithm engines in the world running their social media platform. They're recording every single keystroke, how fast you hit that key. Think about that. A man with having that much. We're talking right now from what I saw the other day. Twitter has over 200 petabytes of data and algorithms that they can use to reprogram or create their own perfect AI out of, using neural and also implant them into your brain. That's dangerous. To have a man to have that much data on humans, to be able to do that and transfer that to a little chip to implant in your head.
Yeah. It's interesting because I know a lot of people would say, well, that's just conspiracy theory. But again, not really. It's science. Yeah. We know that science is moving towards that direction. We're moving towards AI. We're moving towards neural interfaces with human beings. We're trying to work on that for the last 30 years. Since the home computer not only became a reality, but because then we started shrinking and increasing the power exponentially. And so we're talking about, and this is something that's been discussed in sci-fi before. Remember the Waldo, which is the remote control equipment back in the 1950s, was just the writings of Isaac Asimov, and now they're reality. Look at what we saw in Star Trek, as an example, in the 1960s, which inspired and created the technology that we use today on a regular basis,
right? Like
the communicators, which is a wireless phone. Hello,
right? Yeah,
where do you think it came from? So, when anyone who would look at this, and everybody remember, sometimes I'm speaking to the sensors, not necessarily each of us. So I know how to point these things out and try and denounce us for those things. I want people to think, no, just because it's not the science this second doesn't mean it's not the science next week.
Right.
We can't discount that. And it is terrifying to see that someone could have that much information about behavior of human beings, because how do you program AI? You have behavior so that it can independently act, which is scary. Now, going back to Elon, my thought about Elon is it's different than what most people are thinking. I've always thought there's only two outcomes in this. And that is, one, the deal fails. Or two, Elon's going to get it, and he's going to fail because the company's going to get sued to hell. And that's it. And Elon is not a dumb man, and he has a great team behind him. The valuation of the company dropped because Elon, in looking at this and saying, okay, what is it actually worth? They have to justify and prove how much of your business is bots. They said 5%. It looks like 30%. They won't give any confirmation. That is his out. They can promise they want to sue all day long. You didn't live up to the terms of the contract. I can walk away. Now, does he decide to come back and say, well, you know what? The shell of what you have is worthwhile and knock down the price? Maybe. But I don't think he wants to do that. I think he's gotten to the point to say, you know what? There's at least 30% of this business that isn't real. And if I take this over, they have sabotaged this company. They have set themselves up and prepared themselves to put in lawsuit after lawsuit. The second I take over, based on everything they've done, they're going to call discrimination. They're going to call for intimidation. They're going to say that it's the policies that he has and making people actually show up and do their job, actually work for their paycheck. And the fact that he's planning to lay off people, they're going to call that every kind of evil, monopolistic kind of action that he has. And in fact, they will say it's a monopoly, and they're going to crush their. This is a trap. The reason why they want him to take it now is to get his money and collapse the company around him, because there isn't much of a company there. It's that fake. It's that artificial. It's popular. It looks good. It's got a wonderful facade. But like in Hollywood movies, you open the door, you walk in, and you see there's nothing there. It's just that front. At the end of the day, this company, Twitter, is so full of nothing except bots that there's no way to give it a valuation even close to where it is. It is, and then you add in all of the legal problems that he can now see, and since he can see the internals, see all of the problems with this company, staffing, the manner in which they work, the deals that they've made, the many programs that Jack Dempsey has gone in front of Congress and said is actually trying to discriminate individuals, which we all know for a fact. You know what? That's all stuff that the moment he takes over, he now is liable for that. That's when the lawsuits come out, and that's when he gets crushed. He doesn't want that. He wants to get out. This deal was never going to happen. The best thing that could happen right now is he walks away and everyone watches Twitter collapse because the emperor has no clothes. They can't go back to what they were. Something else will replace them, and maybe it's True Social, maybe it's something completely. It could be Parler, could be Twitter, could be something completely different. I don't care. But Twitter.
But do you think? I don't think Twitter wants to take him to court, because then they would have to be exposed even on more stuff.
Exactly. They don't. Yep. It triggers their escape clause, which is to collapse it on Elon, which gets rid of Elon and gets rid of all of the right wingers, as they like to call us, everyone who's not the progressive left. They're all going to get all of them and drop them and unperson them at the same time. So if they go to court, then the trap is sprung too early. Everyone gets out, and they don't get Elon. He'll be able to get out because the contract is fundamentally flawed on their side. No, they want him to buy it. They want him to buy it. And I don't think he's that. I think he has a better legal team and enough advisors, and he's smart enough to say, this is a poison pill. Right. It looked really attractive, but now that I can see it, not even worth it.
Right.
I'm probably one of the people who think that.
Hey, I want to close out with this. I want to close out with this final topic before we all take off for the night.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about this a little bit on my show Thursday, Michael, and I'm sure Pastor was watching. This Georgia, monument that got destroyed. very interesting timing considering everything that's going on in the world, all these deaths, all these, anarchy tactics being formed by various governments, all these wars. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, but we all know that monument clearly sends a lot of messages of some of the worst of times that, like I said, that are upon us. I mean, they're here, and I mean, I just want to know. I mean, I don't like to, be too much of a conspiracy theorist, but they still can't find the person that did it. They have not gotten the person, from what I understand. Michael, I want to start with you on this.
It's a false flag. It's just that easy. And I have almost never called anything such a false flag. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I like having my facts, my details. Look at my site. I have dozens of sources, credible international sources, on everything that I speak about. But in this case, what I'm led to believe is this is a false flag, because even though there's cameras all around, this is something that's well guarded, well known. There's no evidence of who could have possibly done this. The timing of it is helpful to the left. They want to be, because in destroying it, they can blame the right. People will believe it without any facts being given to them, because it sounds like something that a crazed far right individual would do, except they would have done it. It's been the 1980s till today. Mm-hmm. They've had 35, 40 years. Mm-hmm. They could have done it any day they wanted to. Why would they do it now? What's different today than last week, last year, last decade, last 2 decades? Nothing. So there isn't a reason to motivate the right, even the most radical right, to go forward and do this now. But there's plenty of reason for the left to do it now. It demonizes the right at a time where the right is going to win in midterm elections in landslide numbers that they cannot stop. It distracts from the Biden-Harris administration. It helps to distract from what's going on with the failed and lack of international policy. It focuses those people on the far left that agreed with this hyper-socialist authoritarian ideology, and it focuses them together to try and get them to, 1, come out and vote, 2, donate more money, and 3, trying to reinvigorate them to try and convince other people to join their collective thought. So all of the factors that I can see, all of the details, that when I line them up and I say, okay, let's analyze this, and I love to say this all the time, what's next? What's the next domino? What's the next consequence? I understand what happened now. What happens next? Everything that you can analyze from this and every consequence you come up with is something that benefits the left, not the right. Mm-hmm. So why would the right do it? This is a false flag. That's my way of saying it.
Roderick, I'll go to you.
I'm kind of right on line with Michael on this one. Right? I kind of had the same thought, right? Because, I mean, here's the thing, right? Them playing it off as the right is doing it, right, is them actually owning to the satanic writings on those stones. They're automatically admitting their involvement in Satanism and Luciferianism, right? By default, by defending this. If they wouldn't have said anything about it, it would have been like, okay, whatever. But the fact that they're trying to say some far right group is trying to do this or did this, or some evangelical zealot did this, is them admitting to that scribe on those stones that they're practicing Luciferianism and Satanism. This is, and this all falls in line, right? And you know, I've studied some old theology myself. I've read the Babylonian Talmud and I've read the Mizrahi Kabbalah, etc. Right? What we're seeing right now with this, right, the explosion of that stone and people literally standing in the street saying that babies aren't humans on their things, and they're screaming, "I want to kill babies." This lines up, like, I'm talking like there's no coincidences when it comes to these things, right? Because if you're a believer in the Creator, whatever you call him, Allah or God or whoever, right? We all know that things are on a timeline and things move in certain ways, and we understand how those things move and come together. There are no coincidences. There are no coincidences when it comes to these things. So for them to admit or try to push and say it's a right winger trying to blow up these stones literally exposes them if you know what you're looking for.
Good point. I hadn't thought of that aspect of the fact that because they're bringing religion into it, is them trying to cover the religious aspects of it already there, which again, it again points towards, well, it's a false flag. They did it. But what about Pastor? You want to go last on that, or you want to go? Religion. I don't know if we want to do last. Yeah,
Okay,
I think last on that.
Pastor, go ahead.
Commander.
But no, I think Michael and Roderick, I mean, you summed it up again. And what we're seeing too is people are excited about 2022 and about taking back the country. People want us to stand our ground on the Constitution, on the rule of law, on all these things. And, you know, this kind of goes in the hand with, you hear a lot of stories that, you know, there's talk in the White House and other places that, you know, they have a messaging problem. No, there's no messaging problem. They have a policy problem.
Oh, yeah.
And the Americans are policies. And they need things to distract from, you know, what is going on and the excitement that people have about Americans taking back our country in 2022.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Pastor, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I didn't know they were there until it happened. Okay, so I started doing some research and looking through it because that's how big it is. Didn't know they was there. But anything as a Christian, anything that takes away from Jesus and stuff, yeah, I want to get rid of it. I mean, it's just. But when I heard it, I saw it on Facebook. Somebody put something about it on Facebook. I said, "What is this?" So I started looking into it, and it does have some meanings that are rituals and other things that I wouldn't want to have anything to do with, and had people's, you know, focus on other things. I personally believe, I kind of agree with these guys. I do believe that somebody did it trying to blame other people to do it, to get the eyes off of really what's going on. I believe anything that happens now up to election time, you need to look at the underlying issue of why it's happening, because Democrats always have a meaning for something to happen to get our eyes off of really what's going on. And they'll do anything to say, we know we want to take this election. That's the reason all the stuff at the Supreme Court leaked out. That was the way to get that out. And they played their cards a little too early. It should have been on down the road a little more. But a lot of that stuff, they are saying, look here, look at this, because they have nothing right now politically and direction to stand on. Nothing.
Right.
But to crumble our economy and our way of life. I'm glad it's gone. I'm glad it's gone after I read really what it was about. I'm glad it's gone. But you probably, when you get done with it, it's going to be some young people that did it and say, okay, look, we did it. I would say it's a group of young people out acting crazy that did it. That's my personal opinion.
Not crazy. They were instructed. Yeah, I seen people know in my community, Binghamton, New York, we had during the BLM riots when they were going on. BLM, they got a whole crowd of people came on through, and unofficially, and this has not been confirmed, but it is understood by many people that the local progressive leaders of tomorrow, basically an offshoot of Antifa, used a couple of young men, 3 young men who were white and from outside the community, who are highly impressionable and had to be 15, 16 years of age each. And they convinced them that the best thing that they could do was to burn down a park, a community park, and they burned it to the ground the night of that protest, approximately somewhere around 2:30 in the morning. No one has ever been caught. There are no leads on this, but the rumors indicate that these kids that everyone's like, oh, well, it's just these kids. They were just acting wild and crazy. No, they were directed, because if they do ever get caught, they did it with minors, they get away with it, and they're impressionable enough that they're going to be considered heroes as long as they shut their mouths. So they have an incentive to be quiet, to take the blame,
I agree with you.
look like heroes, and to get away with the crime. That's what I
agree
think.
with you.
So that's where I just. So you see what I mean?
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree.
And Michael, I want you to close the show on this last thing that came out today that Trump mentioned at his rally, the Wisconsin thing. You know, because everybody I'm sure on this panel has read that Trump basically wants the election overturned. What they found in Wisconsin is sufficient. It's legitimate evidence that there were hundreds of thousands of fake ballots. There is somebody in power in Wisconsin right now that has the authority to do something about it. And Trump is even mentioning it on his True Social. Will they have the balls to step up? It's in their hands. I mean, Michael, I'll let you start on this because I mean it's a long shot. I get it, but if the truth really came out and there was really an honest proceeding with this, I mean, we know what would happen. Go ahead, though.
See, folks, this is what Rory does to me all the time. Mike, it's only going to be 5 more minutes. One more question, and then he saves something.
I had to put this last part into the show, though, because it just got announced today, and Trump can't stop talking about it. That's all he's talking about.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. Just want people to know this is how he gets me to stay a little bit longer. But anyway, I have probably a unique. This is where you and I disagree, Rory, and we've talked about it previously. Maybe someone else will disagree with me as well. I do not think that this is going to lead to Wisconsin revoking or rescinding their electoral votes for the 2020 election. And I don't think it's actually worth even trying. Even if you could get that, which is not clear in the law.
And we just saw the resolution, though, in Maricopa County, Arizona, and Texas, and a lot of other states are taking after that lead. But keep going. Sorry.
Pennsylvania and Michigan, many states have gone. What at the core is there were many last-minute laws put in place by electoral boards across the nation, but they did not go through the normal process of the legislation being put in, voted on, and passed, and then implemented, which is unconstitutional and is illegal in multiple states, as we have seen, and that's why they keep losing. Does that invalidate the election and the electors? Not necessarily. To say that the ballot box is illegitimate going forward doesn't mean that retroactively it also maintains that illegality. That's not clear. We've also gone 18 months into the Biden-Harris administration. It is counterproductive to the United States to now pull them out and drop. It would be Trump-Pence, by the way. So Pence would be back, which means there's massive animosity in the new White House having them back. That would be instantly a problem as well. But we're talking about also uprooting every department of our government. You're talking about the AG. You're talking about the press secretary. I mean, large to small, all of that gets changed. What about all of the things that were done by executive order under Biden? Do they all reverse? Well, we can't go backwards in time and suddenly have the XL pipeline turn on tomorrow, have 11,000 people go back to work tomorrow. That's not going to happen. And even if we tried, we're going to have massive turmoil throughout the rest of the world trying to react to this lightning fast reaction here in the United States.
Right.
So it not only does it not give us an absolute indication, and I understand why it's good for the ego, it makes us feel good, it's a vindication for many people, including President Trump. I understand that, but it is not clear in the law, and it is not necessarily beneficial to the United States to take that action, even if we could. Rather, it's probably better to say, I could do this if I want to. I won't hurt America by doing it. Let's talk about 2024. That's the way I see it. Many people may disagree with me, and I'm happy to hear those thoughts.
Michael, you do agree, though, Michael, that don't you agree that's fair to say?
do you want this channel to be wiped out before we even go forward? I mean,
Yeah, we're moving on. We're moving on for that one.
Just tell me just say yes or no. Yes
We're
or
moving
no.
on. We're moving
I understand the question, but I also understand the censorship. And
Right. You want to burn it down
episode.
already, right? You want to
All
burn
right.
it down already.
Roderick,
right?
you have a lot to say on this matter. Go ahead, Roderick.
Here's the thing, right?
What?
The Constitution is very clear. It is very clear. How can a state overturn an election? Yeah. The Constitution is mute.
Not there.
There's no overturning or decertifying electors. There's no such thing, right? But what this has exposed, as Michael explained, these elected officials, these elected election board officials violated their state constitution. The citizens need to vote these people out or have recall votes on these people. They should have been yanked immediately, if not sooner, at that point. And this is where civics is very important. Coming down to all of these issues we've talked about tonight, all boils down to understanding civics, right? The state of your rights and what your civic duties are as a citizen of one of the 50 states. If you have officials creating an election law, right, behest of the state government, according to the Constitution, it is their right, time, manner, and places, right? They should be removed. They should be actually impeached.
Yes.
They should be impeached and removed immediately. But people aren't going to do that because it's their team that they're benefiting from that's doing it, right? We all have to come together. I don't care if you have a DRILMNOP behind your name, right? When you have your elected officials creating law underneath the elected officials you have set up in your state capitals to make these decisions, they need to be removed. They are important. They should be removed for maladministration, first of all, right? So that should be it. The American people should see that. So all this stuff that's been exposed with this vote and all this good stuff should be good information for state legislatures to take action and be like, hey, we can't allow this happen again. We got to have an X amount of period to recount votes and investigate, et cetera, before we actually certify. And they really have that time frame, right? From when the election is counted up into the second Tuesday after the first Monday, right? In December, right? What the Constitution says, right? They have that time to make sure everything is legit. They should take that time and investigate every single ballot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and go through that. That's where we should be right now in this conversation instead of worrying about trying to overturn it. We need to stop what could happen in 2022 and what can happen in 2024 going forward.
Yeah.
Right. Commander, I'll go to you.
Well said, Roderick. And, the integrity of our election is vital to the future of our republic. And now, all this time to make sure, and I'm a constitutional conservative. I believe in respecting states' rights and local rule. But when we say states' rights and local rule, it's within the bounds of the Constitution, and where everyone has an obligation as a citizen to ensure their elected and appointed officials are carrying out their duties in accordance with their state constitution and the U.S. Constitution. And so, it's very clear that the American people believe in voter ID. They believe in election integrity. The last two Gallup polls clearly had 80+% of Americans who believe that we need to improve in the area of election. And again, I'm blessed to be in the free state of Florida. It's a large state, 20-some million people, and somehow, but Florida wasn't always that way, right? It was a state hanging Chad years ago, but Florida has come a long way, and we counted by midnight on election. It's not like some of these other places like California, New York, where they keep counting until they get the result they want, or they find ballots here and there. And so, but again,
I was just going to mention, literally, the New York 22nd race lasted. They took from November until the second week of January. They found votes a month after the election and counted them, and the race was decided by. It was under 100 votes. Actually, I believe it was I think it was 9.
You're talking about Claudia Tinney, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Luke,
Yeah.
by the way, is a personal friend of mine, I should mention.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Again, like this should not be happening. And we have to make sure that doesn't happen in 2022 or in 2024. Right. But again, we're now, I mean, I don't know what's going on in the other state. It seems like people are making the efforts to ensure, accountability, fighting for voter ID laws. And I mean, we still have some states in the United States that don't issue real IDs.
Right.
And so is introduce legislation that, hey, if you're not going to vet people to make sure that they're legal residents and that they're citizens when they come to get a driver's license, then we're going to deny you federal highway funds. I was a diplomat abroad when I was in Israel or Greece or in London. I had to get a driver's license from the UK or from Greece or Israel. I had to prove diplomat there assigned. I had to prove that I was there legally, that I was the person I was, and they issued me a driver's license. It was only good until the day I left, and said that I was a U.S. citizen and not a local. So I couldn't vote in their local election. So these countries that we should be able to do it.
Right. Pastor, I'll go to you, and then we'll close out the show. Go ahead.
Well, Michael, first I want to tell you what you said about the young boys. I agree 100%. They probably got talked into it. Young kids, like I think it was. Like I went to a football game, and it was a Kentucky game, and there was some older people are egging me on to try to take this one kid out in front of me for talking about my Kentucky team. So I agree with that. I think there's no way we get at this point. I mean, we want President Trump to go in, have 2 years left. No, I prefer us all focus on 2022 and 24.
I didn't look at it like that. That's actually a good point. I didn't look at it like that, actually. Wow. Very well said. I didn't even think about that. Wow.
Yeah, let's, focus on 24 and 22 and 24. Let's get in touch with our representatives to make sure they put things in play, to make sure all this junk that's happened will not happen again. Like how you say him? Roderick? Get that in a few minutes. Roderick made the statement: "Is we need to get rid of some of these people that's in. We need to throw them out, and because they should have got together when Trump was going around and saying, hey, it got stolen. They should have got together and had meetings if they had to do it away from their capital, state capitals, and had meetings because according to the Constitution, they are the ones that's supposed to be running this thing. Not election boards, not the governors. They're supposed to be running. Right. And so let's focus on the main thing. Let's focus on 22 and 24. Now, just so you all will know, it is 1:00.
Yep. Yeah. We're signing off.
Let me say something. And look who I'm looking at. Today's my birthday. Right now is my birthday.
Happy birthday, my friend. God bless you, man.
Birthday.
Somebody go to
You all saw me before my wife did.
Oh my God.
I love it, man. Happy birthday. I love you. I love you, Pastor. You're a good friend. We've always been close. I adore you. You're a good mentor. You've always been, such a loyal individual to me and to so many other people.
Well, happy birthday. I'm happy to hear that.
Oh, thank you. I don't know. 57. I'm 57 today.
That's good age, man.
You're aging like fine wine, my friend.
57, my Lord. Okay, now, but you don't have to sing happy birthday because probably most of you.
Happy birthday.
Oh, no, I'm not singing. No, not
But yeah, dude, this was good. This was fun, guys. Pastor, happy birthday. Tell everybody where they can find you, where they can get involved, all that good stuff.
You can find me on Rodney Evans. Go No Further is my thing on social media, those two. Also, We're On Our Way is my YouTube channel for traveling, which is what we're doing right now. So you can go over there and follow us on social media, Facebook on that. If you want to know anything about my ministry, go to rodneyevansministries.org.
Perfect. Commander, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can get involved, all that good stuff.
Yeah, Commander Demetries Grimes, running Florida's 15th Congressional District. Grimes.gop, just like it's sound. Grimes.gop.
I love it. I love it, my friend. Well, we're rooting for you, and let's get you in there, and let's rock and roll, and let's take back America. Thank you for coming on. I do also want to go to Roderick. Roderick, tell everybody where they can find you, get involved, all that good stuff.
You can find me. You can go to bpmg.us. That stands for Black Patriot Media Group. You can also find me on my 4 times a week. You can find me on my radio show / podcast called Southern Liberty on Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. You can find that at live.bpmg.us.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's been a fantastic show tonight, man. And everybody, you can catch my show Thursdays from 4 p.m. Eastern to 11 p.m. Eastern, 7-hour show every Thursday, the Rory Sauter Show. We're doing very well. We just had Paul Manafort on this past Thursday. If you haven't checked out the interview, go check it out. It's almost a 2-hour interview. So many things addressed, lots of great questions answered. Very genuine guy, very down to earth, very intelligent. I mean, he's had one of the biggest careers in politics. I mean, a resume like no other. So definitely check that out. And like I said, Michael and I will be coming to you every week doing this show, and we're very excited about it. We will be covering all the major headlines and issues going on in our society, not only in this country, but all across the world. Our new network, the Next Gen USA, will be having many notable names doing their own shows, doing their own columns, 24/7 articles, all that good stuff. Michael, I want to give you the floor.
Well, you've covered almost everything there, Rory. Yes, it's a brand new program. It's S&V 500. Look at that. We lived up to our namesake. We covered some of the top 500 issues that you may or may not have heard about over the last week and going into next week. Matter of fact, I'm going to leave you with a little bit of an extra thing, and it's a tease for everybody, but it's just been announced that in the Ukraine, Zelensky has consolidated the Ukraine TV outlets and dissolved his rival political parties. How is that going to affect the world? Well, one thing I can tell you for sure is tomorrow, no Soundbites Allowed. I do my live stream from 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Normally go about 3 to 4 hours every Sunday, internationally, speaking with people and hearing their voices. It is an interactive program. I look forward to it. But I'm also going to be here next Thursday with Rory, talking with him and many other guests. And, of course, every Saturday we're looking to be here at the S&P S&V 500.
Yes.
Because if you enjoyed this is the first time we did it. Few technical errors. We're only going to get better. And we're looking forward to you being there with us throughout that entire process. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Oh, and you can find me at No Soundbites Allowed. That's with an I. You can see it above my head there. So No Soundbites Allowed. Just put that into any search engine anywhere in the world. You will get my information. Come and join us. Go ahead.
And everybody, you can find me all over the internet. You can find me on social media. I'm on all the platforms. And Michael, very well said as always. Michael, the great one. God bless you, my friend. God bless everybody watching. And God bless America. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend. We will talk to you soon. Until next time, I'm Rory. He's Michael. Cheers, everybody. Much love.
Thank you.